Okay. I don't have a gavel, so I'm calling the February 13th, 2025 Planning Board meeting to order. And we'll have a roll call, please.
Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finity is absent. The Secretary is here. Board Member Mutu is absent. Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Fulham.
Present.
Board Member Glazer.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. First order of business that I want to do is for the Planning Board. I need a nomination for our secretary to appoint Gloria Burke.
I'll make that nomination.
Motion by all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, including you, Gloria, and 2 absent. You are 2025 secretary. So before we go into a work session, we have a request to take the, who are we taking, Claire?
Number 6 of 05, Bridgehampton Commons targets.
May I just comment that we do not have any minutes?
Oh, sorry, yeah, no minutes, okay. I think I'm looking at an old,
I'm sorry, yes.
because I have 6 as loaves and fishes, so I'm
Okay,
looking at
5.
5.
Bridgehampton Commons targets. Okay. Please come up. Claire, give us a quick overview of this.
Sure. So the space that was occupied by
Kmart.
is being outfitted for targets, and so they do have, it's a corporate entity, and they do have the way they do some things. So we've met with them about some changes. Some of them are pretty minor, so I did get some referrals out to the ARB and the fire marshal. Changes to the windows, the doors, the front doors, the signage, loading dock in the back, something you wouldn't see. But there's some changes that they want to do, some corrals for the carts and some order pickup spots that will cause them to have to reduce the number of spaces on the property, about 8 spaces?
6. We'll lose
spaces?
6 stalls.
Yes, and so I'm sorry, introduce yourselves.
Yes, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair. For the applicant, Brian Kennedy, partner with Forcelli Deegan Tirana. Thank you for taking us out of order. I do
You're quite
appreciate that
welcome.
greatly.
We know you have an appointment.
Thank you.
And
Alex Holloman from Bowler Engineering, Civil Engineer for the applicant.
Present with us also is Allison Mathern, a project manager? Project development manager with Target, and we also have an architect on.
great.
Zoom.
Thank you. Welcome.
I have a basic question. A lot of Targets have those big red balls in the front
Yep.
of the store. Is that going to be something that they're going
That's
to ask
proposed
for?
also. So I
They are
definitely want to
proposed.
speak to you about that. Whether you'd want to see that part of this application. They're asking for two phases. One would be an expedited, so they could get it going. As I said, the windows and doors. And then the other part would be the changes to the parking. They would need a variance for that because they're already at their max with parking for the entire site. So this is the front
Those are all
facade.
the elevations.
And I do have elevation renderings too.
So they need a variance for parking. What about the red balls?
Not the balls. They're considered functional, right? They're bollards. They are, but they are painted red. So in some people's eyes, they might consider that like a logo or a
I
sign.
think it is.
And I understand that. Yeah.
Every Target I've been to. Yes.
So this is kind of the rendering for you.
The bullseye.
It does, and on this site, we are proposing a white bullseye at the top.
Instead of red.
Correct. The
So they're
bollards
doing
will be
gray with the white. Sounds
Much
yeah.
nicer. Yeah.
approximately 30 inches tall, and they will,
Be white, be gray.
no, they will be red.
The red balls.
Correct. The bollards in front of the
Bollards, yeah.
walkway.
So are the bollards there for protect, so that the cars can get into the glass doors?
Correct. Exactly, in front of both entrances.
And what they're doing is, so right now there's a curb, right, and a very small handicap ramp up. What they're, and I'm, excuse me if you're wrong, but they do a very expansive curb, which is why they need the bollards, because it is all at grade with cars, so they don't want the cars to run into the building, honestly.
Correct.
So that is the point.
It's a flush grade situation.
Okay, so that we can systematically do this, let's go down one by one of all of your requests, okay?
Okay. And here's a resolution, so you can see what the comments are so far. And then we'll go from there.
Tom?
You wanna?
Sure.
Tom's got it.
Tom,
I gave it, I gave it to Tom.
Okay, you have.
Yep. You have it, Tom.
I got it, thank you.
George
Oh, and
needs
here's
it.
George. Record should show that George is here.
I need one.
Go ahead.
Here you go. Here, George. That's for you.
Madam Chair, acknowledging Board Member Mutu is present.
Great, thank you. Okay.
So as Claire pointed out in her brief overview, we intend to take the entire space vacated by Kmart, approximately 91,000 square feet. That is typically smaller than the Target stores that you and I shop at here on Long Island. They're generally between 125,000 square feet to 140,000 square feet. As part of this application, we will need a 6-stall reduction in the previously approved parking variance. The prior application, I believe it was TJ Maxx, came before you folks and was granted a parking reduction to 543 stalls. We will need to reduce that to 537 stalls. I do have Alex here if you'd like to take us quickly through the site plan. There are minor modifications, as Claire indicated, to the loading docks, but the facade will be completely upgraded. We were before the Architectural Review Board on February 4th. They were incredibly positive on our proposed changes. They prepared a memo,
Yes,
right?
it is in the
think
resolution.
It is, yes,
Yeah.
okay. Supporting this, but Alex, if you want to take them just quickly
Sure.
through the proposed.
Absolutely. So minor changes, as Brian alluded to, in the back of house area, which is planned north on your sheets. The existing rear loading docks are to be refurbished with minor grade changes and high strength concrete. Additionally, the existing trash compactor just south of that will be replaced in kind. It's need for a new trash compactor to be placed in, and the structural pad underneath will be replaced.
The what?
The structural pad beneath it will be replaced. That's your back of house area. The front of the building and the front parking area will be receiving some minor improvements as well. The new enhanced pedestrian safety improvements, such as the bollards that were spoken to about before, in addition to some enhanced crosswalk striping in front of those to account for the new larger depressed curb that we spoke of. Furthermore, there's a new on-site grease trap system, which we are currently in with the health department for application. Received very minor comments on that initial submission. That will be geared towards the new Starbucks, which we placed inside the Target. There'll be a Starbucks kiosk that will need the grease trap system to be approved by the county. Furthermore, there's some minor parking changes that were spoken of before. There will be the 2 existing double cart corrals that were associated with Kmart will be removed. 4 new double cart corrals will be added. That is the Target's cart corral system, and 10 Target drive-up stalls will be installed as well.
The site plan.
The result of those 2 parking changes will net a reduction of 6 parking stalls. However, it's important to note that the parking layout and the parking access and the parking drive aisles are not changing. Furthermore, there will be some new building signage and drive-up parking signage added that's associated with the drive-up stalls. Those were also presented before the ARB last week with the approval associated with that. And just furthermore, some architectural facade upgrades that Brian mentioned as well, which sums up.
The one thing I would like to point out too regarding the drive-up stalls, we have 10 proposed. If you take a look at the plan right in front of that portion where the walkway is. You can see it on the,
Here?
right there.
In the blow up?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, right there. We had initially proposed a tall sign that read "Drive Up" on it on all four sides. Claire and Janice were very clear that that would likely not be received well, so we are just proposing small signage in front of each of those stalls.
And what do they look like to you?
They're in the
We do
rendering.
have
You
on
can see
the
them in the rendering.
first page of the rendering.
Oh, I see. So that's, they're going to be there.
Correct. Generally, and I'm sure all of you guys have utilized these types of stalls, people are placing their orders online or on an app, coming to pick up their delivery at Target. Employee will walk out the delivery loaded into the car. They generally come during off-peak hours, and their stay time at the site is less than 10 minutes.
So what does this say, this sign? Space 1?
Correct. So when you get there, you'll call up the customer service line, say, I have an order for Mr. Kennedy, I'm in space 1. Target employee will come out and deliver it to the back of your car.
There are these exist already for King Cullen and for Walgreens in the shopping center.
Okay.
They do. They're blue and
Yes.
green.
And so, is this all consistent?
So this one, do these have aisles next to them?
They-
They
they-
do.
Minor, like standing aisles, not drive aisles.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the ones I think with the King Cullen, and they don't have these aisles next to them. They just have signs up for them, right? Is that what they have?
Yeah.
They put
Yeah.
up- I think they just put some signs up in existing
Yeah.
spaces.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right.
This is more thoughtfully presented. This is restriping of the area. Again, a standing area for the employees, so they're not standing between the cars and such. So it's a more thoughtful presentation of that concept.
So Claire, just a question about parking, okay?
Yeah.
So this is all cooperative shared parking in this lot,
The whole two sites are
the whole two
the
sites?
two sites.
So
work together.
given what Gloria and Tom just brought to light of, these are restricted parking spaces, correct? And
So-
deducted from,
Some of the others, and I'm not sure that has actually been brought to us.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah, Walgreens is on the same property, and then King Cullen is on the other
Yes.
parcel. Okay.
so the question is, are we reducing the general overall open parking by allowing all of this to happen? Question, I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
So-
It's a new animal, right?
Could be interesting if they're,
Doing that
well, are they
stuff.
close enough? And I haven't been to that shopping center in a while where they could have like cooperative shared, numbered
The
spaces.
Walgreens are relatively
really.
close.
Yeah.
Target and King
But-
Cullen are
But
close.
the other side of the
But the
shopping
other
center is
side
far
farther
too.
away.
Yeah, I always go to King Cullen, but I just started going to Walgreens for some stuff, and so I'm aware of the signs.
Do you use the pickup at either of them?
No.
Makes your life
It's
easier.
very convenient.
And you've,
I like
you've
to touch my tomatoes.
You've delegated 8 spaces. Now, is that based on a history of your other stores, given the fact that this is a small store?
Correct. It's smaller than other sites.
Yes,
Isn't
our
that-
prototype is 18 stalls
This
for
is 10,
pickup.
to for clarity.
So just based on, again, trying to mitigate the reduction in parking while still accommodating what we believe we'll need for customers,
I'm,
we settled on this.
okay, I'm just going to request that we take a look at the overall parking in the whole.
Well, there's two facets here. Some things that I think are simple. I mean, the signage is going to be a target here, right? Those are things that they can progress and start to plan and order the sign, things like that. And then the parking, they need a variance. So they'll need a pre-submission from you, and they'll need
Okay.
a variance from the zoning board of appeals, and then they'll be back to you for site plan for the details.
Okay.
It's interesting you cut there, because the same thought crossed my mind, were you counting those spots, but if you didn't have those spots and some people can pick up, they'd have to find a parking spot anyway.
And then
Correct.
going
It's
in to pick
reducing
up.
the number
Yeah.
of trips
So
into the
it's kind of,
store.
it's.
And we will
It's
have a
complicated
parking
so that it can
analysis
be
for
complicated.
submission to you.
Yeah, I think that's
We're
important for us to
already
know
working on it.
if there are
Full
shopping
And
pattern
you've,
changes now
you've
happening.
also put in 6 cart storage, so you lost 2 spots there.
Correct.
That also helps with cars being littered across the parking lot, which
There's a
sometimes
net
have
benefit.
parking spaces as well.
With the addition of the loading dock, can you just describe the circulation in the rear of the building and, if there's any
Sure.
thoughts around that?
Just to clarify, we're just rehabbing and refurbishing the existing loading dock. So there
Okay.
are 3 loading bays. The loading bays are remaining at 3. It's just wear and tear. So a new tenant's coming in, brand new concrete, making sure everything is as it should be. So rehabbing and refreshing.
Because that road is the cross-access, and those roads are used all the time.
Yes.
Right.
You pass by those loading docks all the
That
time.
ring road that goes around the back. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Under
called
shared
cross-access.
Oh, excuse me, cross access.
Thank
yes.
you.
Yeah, but, so this is tucked back into the building, and you can see where the parking is. If you see the back
Here?
Yeah, I just thought you said new loading dock,
Oh,
which you
excuse
meant refresh.
Refreshing.
I
Yeah.
understand now.
To the
Okay.
existing, yes,
Thank
of course. Yes, no problem.
I said reconstructed, I thought.
Okay,
We're
so,
not losing any parking in the back.
no.
Everything's in the front.
So the sign looks great. I mean, you're going to do it in white, so that's nice, and
Yeah.
that's simple. So what else to the front do we need to be looking at?
Well, you got the red bollards, right? Which,
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
big red ball. And I've seen that in
Yeah.
a lot of stores too. They're about 3 feet diameter.
They're
30
large.
inches, exactly.
So,
Safety features, I understand they are essential to the Target brand.
How about the dropped curb though? Could you just do 2 bollards and then just keep the curb as it is?
I think that we would have to push back on that a bit. I would suspect that we need, how many do we have proposed? 5?
5.
Yeah,
Parts and
the entire,
Come on up, you have to identify yourself for the record too.
Okay, sorry, Allison Mathern.
Go ahead.
Julian.
Yeah, come on.
We have mics here, so.
Senior Development Manager for Target. Yeah, I mean, this is very much our standard with the widened flush curb to allow customers and carts free access. Our carts are fairly large. So yeah, to limit it to, a narrow typical curb cut opening would be undesirable to us for sure.
What are the dimensions of those? Height?
30
They're
inches.
30 inches.
30 inches. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, you also have, there is all these, columns blocking it anyways.
Well, I mean, their space, so just FYI, our architect is online. I guess you haven't started the online portion of the meeting if we need him to speak to it, but.
What we can do is, I think I hear a couple comments on the bollards.
Yes.
We can parse that out, and we could have that be a discussion at the pre-submission stage, whether it's warranted to go all the way through for the bollards, or
just a
might
segment.
there be a compromise that might satisfy the board about it being a sign, here I am on Target.
What about matching the color of the Target logo?
Well, the challenge is the
Less
the
up,
point
less in your face.
is but the point is to be in your face because it's where the
Recording
curb is
in
flush.
progress.
And so we don't want a vehicle to accidentally drive up on the sidewalk where we have customers waiting to cross the drive aisle, or someone to even want to drive their car up there to load something
Recording
into
in
their car.
progress.
We do have, bigger items, TVs, furniture pieces, things like that. So we really do want it to be very visible because in addition to being a physical barrier to keep someone from driving up there, we want them to see it and not make that movement towards the
More of
sidewalk.
a safety issue as well.
Exactly,
It is,
100%.
it is. And
I was going to answer the question, and you've kind of gone a different way. Is are they intended to be placed also as crash barriers in case from somebody driving into the store?
I think that they are not whatever the ASTM requirement is for crash barrier, but they are, it's a 3-foot deep post. I mean, they're really hard to move. So effectually, yes, but not like ASTM standard for that. Yeah, but we do place them in front of the glass where there is depressed curb for that exact reason, or where we have benches or things like that at other locations. Yeah.
I think the core issue here really, and like when you're doing your submission, is to do a study of signage for other corporations in the area, because that's really what has been done in the past, is sort of a limiting of the major branding elements, and the additional bollards and the striping really is an extension of signage to my interpretation. So in fairness to other companies that have had to modify that strategy,
Which we
It has to be
understand.
fair.
and that
Well,
was a
it's
huge-
called logo extension and brand
Logo
identification.
extension,
Yeah.
That's a huge reason they chose to go with the white on the
Okay.
top sign that is visible from the street. These bollards are very likely not going to be visible from Montauk Highway with cars at the site. They'll serve more of a safety purpose from the vehicles that are entering in there.
Right. Well, I think what we're saying is that we have a master plan for this whole commons, and it's a good-looking shopping center because of that, and because people conform to the signage law. And we had an issue where we had someone put up a sign that was way too big, and they had to take it down and make it
We're still working on that.
conform. So, so that's what you hear. But what can we? What you want? You need some approvals now. Is that?
Well, not today.
Okay.
So, what I'm hearing is the bollards are an issue. I'm hearing some things are an issue. I think we can work on a list. that will
Overall
be very
parking.
clear. We'll get you something to consider for the next meeting. But today, I think we just would deem the pre-submission completes. It'll have the parking issues there, possibly the bollards. We can come back and talk about that issue. Today, we'll start the pre-submission, and then we'll talk about it at the next
Okay,
meeting.
good.
Does that sound good?
And
Any
we've-
other?
And we've discussed this at other meetings before, but since COVID and since online shopping, the feeling among many professionals, I think, is that parking requirements, have changed from, what was in the ITE manuals. I don't know if those have been updated or not. But, there may be information, there may be even from your own stores as to what percentage of parking spaces are actually being used nowadays. I would just encourage you to look at whatever you can with regard to the newest
And
information.
we do track a lot of that. Unfortunately, a lot of the drive up at this stage is pretty anecdotal. But to your point, yes, I mean, it's definitely changing people's driving habits. It's also a really good way to allow someone to come and shop that at a time where they wouldn't otherwise, because they can just zoom in, get their backpack, pick their package up in 5 minutes and be on their way, which they might do on a Tuesday, whereas otherwise they would go shop not till Saturday, Sunday when they have the time. So
Right.
it really has changed habits and traffic and all of those things. So yeah, we will, as they said, we started a parking study, and we'll make sure we get as much of that.
I mean, we,
Yes, we can.
the people who live here know that, and I know personally that Bridgehampton Commons lot, and at certain times of the year, it's packed.
Oh, I'm sure.
You
Yeah.
cannot find a spot. So it's not like it's underutilized where we can just say, okay, take 8 parking spaces and restrict them.
I mean, this-
Cumulatively, the overall parking calculation is important now. If we say we're taking 40 spaces out because King Cullen did it, Walgreens did it, and now Target,
And I'm not sure-
we're not doing our job as planners, and I think Tom is making
Yeah.
that point.
I don't go out. That's too far east for me to go. So I'll just ask a general question here. So
Yeah.
It's a lot of parking, and look, you drive to some other shopping centers, and you see an overabundance of parking. If we get ready, your Target store in Riverhead, between Target and, that place is half empty most of the time.
Yeah.
But my question really is, are all these parking spots, when it's filled by customers shopping, or people parking there and leaving their cars, or from adjacent property?
No, I think it's customers, because there are a lot of retail stores in this.
Never
And
seen
it's
it
the
used
only
for
game
anything
in-
else.
Yeah.
I've been there.
It's the only game in town east of the canal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you-
people come from
That Kmart had
Montauk to shop.
the highest gross revenue of any Kmart in the United States when Kmart was
Yeah.
kicking.
I would just say, and I realize that there's going to be much more discussion about this, but for us, the drive up is a very specific, very integral part of our business. So whereas for like a Walgreens, it might be a couple people do that, it's not as big of a function. Like our shopping app is specifically built around this. You place your order, you say you're going to do drive up. Then it prompts you to say, I'm on my way to the store, so they can get ready and know you're coming in the next half hour or so. And then you get there, you park in a spot, and you put in the app what spot number you're in, and they've got your order. And you can also now get a Starbucks order with it, or even do a return through the drive-up lane spots. So it really reduces the number of customers in the store, and it reduces the number of or the amount of time that customers are on site, because they can do it all in these individual drive-up spots, and again, in and out in less than.
But you have no history. This is all speculation in terms of Bridgehampton
I'm sure that we
Commons.
have some. I mean, we have almost 2,000 stores, so it's hard to quantify the data for that. And this is really only in the last 4 or 5 years.
I do think, though, that this area of the street next to the bollards is now a very different use than it was before, because you have people coming, your staff, crossing that street regularly. So it's a big safety issue. And I think if you can get us any data on what's happening with the drive-in, because the drive-in is new for this particular site, that data will help us really and help us thinking through the safety issue. It's really a safety issue at that point.
Oh, and I mean, that's
the spots on the street are not just in the drawing; they're actually going to be on the street, right? Where you have
right.
Yeah.
And so between the bollards and the spots, you want to really alert people: do not park here. Get out of the way.
Which is the combination of the depressed curb, the striping shown, and then the bollards. They're all working in tandem with that exchange. You have employees, you have customers.
So some data would really support all.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we'll
That would
dig
be
into it
helpful.
more. Like I said, we're working on the parking study, and they've requested some of that information, so I'm going to dig deeper with our team and see what we have.
So what else was there, Claire? The
So in
windows,
this
the
case,
doors?
The doors. So let me break that all up for the
Okay.
next time. We'll just spell it right out, and then we'll schedule the pre-submission conference on the parking layouts for March 13th.
Okay, because if we have some statistics, it makes our job easier instead of speculating and guessing and.
Great.
The windows.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Do we have to have a pre-submission conference?
Yeah, schedule a pre-submission conference.
Okay, for what date, Claire?
March 13th.
March 13th, I have a motion. Motion by Kate, second by George. All in favor? Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Okay, we're going to close the afternoon planning session and go into a work session. To discuss the BESS legislation. And Seth will present this, Seth Hayes from Long-Term Planning. Welcome, Seth.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to lay out some maps of some potential best
You want me to
sites
clear this
that
up?
we've identified.
Do you want me to close right?
Yeah.
So tell us what you're going to do and so that we can,
Certainly. So we have three bits of legislation before you. This is a town board referral. Long-range planning has put together a chapter in the Building Construction and Energy Conservation Code 123.39.3. We've also put together special exception standards under 331.62.21 and a new Article 7A, an energy storage overlay district. You'll see that the three proposed bits of legislation have gone out to their first public hearing. We have another public hearing scheduled for the 25th of this month. This day is actually the end of the moratorium for the battery energy storage. Chapter 314 has had 3 extensions to date. We are in the midst of another extension while we get this code finalized. The town board wishes your input, and I had thought that today would be a great chance for us to focus in on the special exception standards, as that will be under your purview. That would mean that the tier 2, there's a 3-tiered system for these batteries. The largest would be from 5 megawatts to 19 megawatts. That would be that would need an energy overlay district landed by the town board. They would look at the the section 33038-4 and the special exception standards to do so. At which point you too would have oversight over the tier 3 as well. So you would also need to do planning board approval on tier 3. Tier 2 will not go to the town board, will come directly to you. That tier 2 is up to 5 megawatts and starting at 600 kilowatt hours.
Okay, Seth,
Yes,
please, baby steps. I asked for this work session
yes,
to inform the planning board as to what this legislation was about. So
Yes.
you've been close to it for months.
Months, I know.
Months and months and months. We have not.
understood.
So please,
Okay.
Look at the maps, tell us what an overlay district is, and just some first basics.
I'll take a step.
You'll take a stab at that?
I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
Because I asked him these same questions, and he has, as you said, he's been knee deep in this. So he knows it all. So when we want the nitty gritty questions, what happens is that they will be allowed by special exception if they're a certain size in the LI 40 and LI 200 zoning district. And they are a certain size, right? There are 600 watts to 500 megawatts, right?
That's
That's
the smallest? Is that the smallest?
No, that's the largest.
The largest.
That's the
That's second
middle.
largest.
Yes,
Second largest.
Right.
But that would be what you would do as of right. The application would be a type 1 action. That would be a pre-submission project. They'd have to meet the setbacks. Those are the ones you will see, and you'll have the special exception application. The overlays would be a situation of
LI and an opportunity and potentially opportunity sites.
And
stand lines.
how is that defined?
The
'Cause
opportunity sites
That's the
have,
question
sure, and we
Wanna read them?
could look through,
Yeah.
sure, there's avoidance areas and opportunity sites that are laid out in 38
that the
points.
town board would
The
then
town
have
board
to
looks at.
change the zoning to allow this.
Absolutely, it is a change of zone.
So your first tier is the yellow on the map?
No, these are all,
Just tell us the
these are all the available and actually the larger tier,
Okay.
okay?
First tier, I believe, is in your home.
This is, no, actually, so the smallest batteries, that would be a power wall, let's say. That is subject to building permits and electrical
Yes.
permits.
So you
That's from
instead
0
of a
to 80
generator, instead of a
kilowatt.
generator, you have a battery pack. In
Absolutely.
your house.
So they don't come before.
They
us.
don't come before you.
Okay.
That's a building permit only. That doesn't even rise to the level of a tier.
Got
We
it.
start tier 1
And people
when you
are
get
actually-
80 kilowatt hours.
If I may, Seth,
Mhm.
people actually have those installed in their house right
Yes, they
now in
do.
the town of Southampton. So that hasn't
Right.
changed.
And it was not part of the moratorium.
Right.
Only larger scale ones were.
Community.
Okay, so tier
80
1.
to 600, do we see
80 to
those?
600 is now tier 1. You will have site plan approval. It will be required. It is allowed, importantly, in commercial zones. The idea here for the tier 1 is it can be an accessory to a commercial enterprise. If they need battery backup, perhaps a shopping center with refrigeration would like to have an emergency battery backup system. They would come before you for a site plan. It would be permitted.
Do we have a lot of those existing now?
No.
No, nothing
Okay.
exists.
Just,
But there's been a moratorium.
Solar,
yeah,
but not the batteries.
not the big ones.
Yeah.
So
So,
just while we talk, so I just made a note to myself here that for that tier 1 language, which, I was on a committee with Seth, although I never made it to a lot of meetings, I would look at them and Seth and I would speak afterwards. So, the idea, I think we really should also be adding, the same way we've added solar batteries as standard language and site plan approval, I think we should also add language suggesting suggesting that they install tier 1 battery systems, battery backup systems. And the battery backup systems, again, it's kind of a misnomer because people tend to think that's only a backup in case power fails. There's a multitude of very good uses that people can use these systems for. Peak shaving. They can take the systems offline, very managed properly, so when the peak between 3 and 7, they can actually come off the grid and use the power from batteries to power the facility and take that demand off. So, that could have a very big impact on electricity usage over peak period. If enough facilities, site plans and laundromats and medical officers, everything that come before us for site plan approval, start really looking at how to install and use these systems proactively, not just as battery backup, but as actually.
Yeah.
Does LIPR allow that? Because with a generator, you have to,
If I may, it would depend on if it's working in parallel with the grid. Are we importing and exporting? Are we generating it at the site? So
Okay.
perhaps if your incentivization was saying, put solar on your large commercial roof, you might make that next step if you wish. Put a battery as well to harness and do your peak shaving that you're saying would be, it's beneficial for the
Same
town.
concept as upgrading your septic system,
In a sense.
right? Like you're,
Upgrade your electrical system.
you're not
Although
adding to
one
the issue.
disincentive, now I don't know if they'll do this on commercial, but for residential, I know once a year, LIPA takes whatever energy I have left over and takes it away. They don't let you store it. That's their rule.
well,
They reset
they pay you pennies, but
pennies, but
they don't
so and
exactly
maybe
take
it
it
might not
away.
exist for commercial, which would have more of a reason to keep that energy storage to do exactly what George just described, right? I don't
Well,
know.
the idea is they're not feeding it back into the grid. They're actually using it on site.
Yes,
Either
yes,
use
yes.
it or lose it. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, if they do the use it or lose it deal, it's a disincentive to store extra energy because at some point you're going to lose it all,
Exactly,
or whatever you're storing, right?
yeah.
So I'm not sure if, on a commercial basis how PSE&G deals with that.
Well, I'll just say that this is being done in many other parts of the country, and
Yeah.
if we're not doing it, we're behind.
It makes sense.
Well,
I agree with you.
we are 1,000% behind.
Yeah.
Even from the rest of New York State.
But I think it's a
So
reason
I
to
have a
push
question in
PSE&G.
terms of the zone where this is
Yes.
allowed, okay?
Certainly.
LI
Should-
40?
For the most, I would, yes, LI 40 is where we are starting. This is what is before you. These are LI 40 and LI 200.
And this is,
And opportunity sites. Again, depending on, that would be tier 3 and tier 2. Tier 1, we start to talk, that's the smaller commercial units, and then the residential, which are too small for us to be involved with.
So the LI 40,
Yes.
I mean, here on the east end of Long Island, we have LI 40 zones smack up against residential zones, because hodgepodge zoning
Absolutely.
everywhere.
So
So what's going to happen?
The steering committee looked at that in depth. We did a whole GIS analysis. We pulled up, we had started with all the commercial and the LI. We then put, do they share a property line with a residence? That should exclude them, we thought. Then we actually branched that out to 300 feet, and this is in the code, and it is a very important part. That property line to property line, there will not be a battery energy storage system permitted if it's within 300 feet of a single-family residence, a residential district, or an occupied community building. Property line to property line.
How did you get the 300 feet?
The 300 feet came from an idea the fire marshal put forward. When there is an emergency event, the air testing is done. They go out to 300 feet. They take tests to see what the smoke, what the pollution levels, toxicity is out to 300 feet. So we assumed that there is an understanding that up to 300 feet there is a likely an impact from a combustion of a battery. So we thought take anything within that area could be impacted, therefore we should exclude it. It would be 300 feet, they would take a test, and if they found something, they would then test 400 feet, and it would go further and further.
Are they only testing toxicity and not fire?
This would be the smoke. That was the basis for the 300 feet. The fires in these circumstances are pretty much contained, not contained, but they're at the container itself. It is a blaze, but
inside the container.
But there is a lot of language on limiting combustibles. Even the fencing needs to be non-combustibles. We have a 20-foot clearance around the cabinets or containers, which is another provision. All batteries will be in these specialized cabinetry or containers, which is akin to an ISO maritime container.
So do you think 300 feet is sufficient?
That's the information coming from the steering committee.
The steering committee decided, Southampton decided differently, but they're a much more agricultural
What did they
town,
decide?
and they said 750. But then again, when we applied 300, We took an abundance of sites and we were left with 32 sites that would be potential sites for a battery energy storage.
But that's sort of like backwards mathematics to me.
Well, I'm just,
You know,
Right.
you put additional safety distances and you get fewer sites. So maybe we should reduce the safety distance and get more sites. I don't think that to me is not a safety equation. You know, look to see where the maximum safety is.
I don't know what he's saying there.
Yeah, what he's saying is when they did it, if we were to do 500 feet, you probably would eliminate a lot of sites, right?
No, what he's saying is that when they did the first analysis, not putting in that 300 feet, there were a number of sites. But once they did the 300 feet, a lot of sites got eliminated from being.
So it would be good to see what these maps look like in comparison, 300, 500, 750, and, you know.
certainly. Oh, that was the job of the steering committee.
Are you,
But for us to see.
yeah, I'm just,
so we can
as well.
I'm just trying to get some comments back to the town board. So your concern is that you feel that 300 is not sufficient?
Yeah, we need to know what is a better number. If Southwold picks 750, 300 seems like, that may not be enough. Now, if the fire marshal and that team weighed in heavily, I would assume they have a significant say. Then we need to know a rationale for all.
So the overall general statement is 300 feet sufficient? If it came from a fire marshal because of toxicity and fumes, is that sufficient? You know,
And also-
one of the biggest problems that we had with all of this, why we had a moratorium, why we had the community up in arms legitimately, was the closeness, proximity of these units to residences. So, look, we're looking at the same thing with marijuana stuff, you know. So this is really an important ingredient.
But it's not a 300-foot buffer.
No,
It's
no,
a
I know.
300-foot, their property line has to be
Yes.
300 feet
From right.
from their property line.
Okay, but some of
So
these,
there has to be
but some of,
something in between.
some of these residential units, houses are,
Yeah,
you know, they have a
but now
10-foot
they're all-
setback.
Now they're also limited to LI 40 and LI 200 zoning, so you can't put this in a.
Even an
residential-
LI 40 or 200, if it had a property, a single-family residence within 300 feet, it would not be allowed to have a battery energy storage. That's-
Period.
Period.
So there has to be 300 feet of industrial area between the use and another industrial area and then a residence.
Yeah, a
This is
telling
not-
one is the
This is
industrial,
not a 300-foot setback.
the enterprise zone, you know how there's the circle of
Yeah.
LI in the middle. In that zone, for example, only those in the center would be, because if 300 feet around it is all LI and there's not a single family residence. You get out to the outside perimeter and that 300 feet oftentimes knocks away those LI sites
So it measures from the,
property line of the LI, and just doesn't matter if the next abutting is an LI. If there's a family residing on the next property over the property line, that's the
so how
exclusion.
many parcels did you come up with?
37.
That's
Yeah.
where the 32 came out.
32
plus
potential
opportunity
sites.
And those are on your
And
map.
that's laid out here.
So this takes into account the reference to coastal evacuation routes.
Yes.
Those have been mapped.
That's a great question. I'll have to verify that.
When I was involved years ago,
The 500 feet.
the mapping of coastal evacuation routes was somewhat up in the air, because I think when you look at your requirements with regard to, they have to have direct frontage on an improved existing state, county, or town road, having a right-of-way of at least 50 feet in width and adequate fire suppression. I think you're probably going to eliminate just about because I think 24 and 27 are coastal evacuation routes, I believe.
Yeah,
I
I'm
believe
looking at
County Road
Bridgehampton
80 is the
here.
coastal evacuation route.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent
I just think
point.
you're going to have a really difficult time. But again, I think the coastal evacuation route was kind of fluid. My memory is those signs were put up like
Fluid.
15 years ago, and everybody wondered where they came from and where they went.
Okay.
And do we have one?
Are they actually federally designated?
Right, but I
Well,
think
it
it
has
was
to
27.
emanate
I
from
think it was-
county and town, I would think.
Right. So
Do they have to be mandated by the state as well, Tom?
we never got to the bottom of it when I was looking at it, but we just saw signs put up, and we
so-
thought they were put up by the state and the county, but we really didn't.
Right, so critical.
I think an important point I'd like to bring up, I feel like we're dancing around a little bit, but I did want to say that a very important part is the peer review aspect. This was recommended by the New York State Intergovernmental Working Group that Hochul put together the moment these fires occurred, and there was just the moratoriums were put in place. They specifically state that there shall be a third-party peer review on all applications, and this is tier 1, 2, and 3. We will have assistance from a third party over these applications and will verify that they are in compliance with. I have listed out in one of these sections. I had roughly 24 different codes, standards, testing methods that are all accepted and are being updated constantly. The equipment needs to be compliant with all those standards and codes, which is almost impossible for us to ascertain.
So who is this third party?
This is going to be something the applicant pays for. We are going to have to, the state is currently putting together a list of individuals, of technical experts to assist us.
Like a consultant?
It is a consultant in many respects. NYSERDA has alluded to it. Have I found it? We're on kind of the cutting edge of this. The Clean Siting Team, which is a NYSERDA ORE, Office of Renewable Energy Siting, is doing this as we speak.
So,
Is the code written in a way that it refers to changes? In other words, if the state makes significant changes to what they're requiring, do we have to then change our code, or does it automatically update our code?
We have put in, for example, on those 21 codes and standards as amended. I have the interagency working group, its draft recommendations for another 6 months. We have adopted them as a town, or at least we're proposing to adopt those recommendations as they stand. There may be more, which we would have to then fold into our code.
And do those include things like non-combustible containers and non-combustible fencing?
It does, yes,
okay.
and that has found its way. There are 16 different recommendations, all of which enhance signage. The clearing and non-combustible fencing. A big one is a network or a remote center that has 24/7 surveillance of the site. 15 minutes notification of an emergency with a 4-hour. You must be on site. A designee has to be on site within 4 hours, which we could change if we wanted to.
Regarding the independent review, is it written that the applicant hires that person, or that they pay for the town to hire someone to represent
It's
and review on the
written that-
town's behalf?
It's written that they give the money to the town hires who they believe.
The same way we do, okay.
Right, they don't bring their own consultant. Right?
Thank you.
We will hire the consultant.
So what's an opportunity site?
An opportunity site, well, let's take it right from the code then.
We covered LI-40 and we covered commercial.
Sand mines.
Sand mines is the big one, yeah. So unfortunately, you know that they are often zoned residential. So this was an opportunity for us, maybe the town board, to consider. This is only for their consideration, the sand mines as potential sites. You also have publicly owned properties, designated brownfields, and existing community distributed generation sites, which would be like the transfer station as a CDG.
So how many of those sites did you map out on your maps?
These, the interesting thing about an energy overlay is they can land wherever the town board, after looking at these things, and if it's one of these opportunity sites. I don't know all those different opportunity sites.
Okay, because those are pretty
So
specific.
we should map.
Yeah, you should map the opportunity sites for sure.
The 32 that.
Oh, they're here. It's
Orange, right?
orange is the sand potential area, best area. Yeah, so they're all.
I would say some of them are there, but I don't believe every, there are sand mines here and there, but I don't believe.
Municipal yards on this one?
Yeah.
Right, municipal yards. Yeah,
And it
that's
is true, they are quite.
So the orange
some of them
is
are
the one where they would land it, the town board would land it, and the yellow, it would be the potential for the tier 2 on your behalf with the special exception. Right?
So municipal yards, is that a category?
So it's municipally owned properties.
Yes.
Which,
Okay, so there's a municipal yard right in the heart of Bridgehampton. So does that mean that that's an opportunity site?
It would be, then you would consult your avoidance areas. If it's within 300 feet of a residence,
It is.
no, it is not a,
Then it's bumped out.
then it's,
That's why I'm asking that it should at least be, well, you say it is mapped. They are
yeah,
mapped.
I just hesitate to say everything is on the maps. There are other municipally owned, I believe, sites. This thing has gone through many, many iterations, and
Because that's a basic blueprint,
Yes.
to have, look at a map.
Yeah, well, this says municipal yards, which is different from municipally owned property. So technically, that could be every playground and
the town owns a lot of
which I don't
different.
think.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
not defined.
So, for example, I know that this
Okay.
this will be an issue here, which is Line Quiet, and it's still on there, but that has residential property next to it, so that even though it's on there, it doesn't have a. And the reason I say that because the Village of Southampton Beach has scheduled a public hearing to review that lease and probably go through the proper process to get that lease out again. I don't know why.
and I think to George's point, when we say municipally owned properties, the question of, was that municipally owned by the town of Southampton or owned by a different
Village.
municipality?
Right.
So
Oh, that's
I
a
don't know
good
whether
point.
you need to,
That fit that up before.
Yeah,
Right.
it does need to be tightened up.
Yeah.
I understand, note taken. Will-
either,
Yeah.
whatever the board decides, but I
It's a
think it should be,
loose term to say municipally owned.
Right.
Yes.
And the
Which
transfer,
municipal?
the transfer stations are included in this list? Is that what you said?
Potential.
Potential opportunity
Yeah.
sites.
Potential what?
Opportunity sites, right?
Oh, transfer
Certainly,
stations?
yeah.
Transfer stations, because they're rarely immediately next to.
No.
That's interesting.
I mean, at a certain point, we're trying to allow to best to be cited somewhere.
some are, some aren't close to municipal, our
Residential.
waste management sites, right?
Yeah.
Some are, some
How
aren't.
does this fall in with the town's wider planning around energy, as a resource?
Well, we,
Comp plan, you mean?
certainly, well, we have the climate action plan. We're trying to reduce our emissions by 2040 down to net zero. So that is certainly in line with our comprehensive plan, the climate action plan being an amendment of that. The Sustainable 400 also talks about microgrids and changing the way how we get our energy. I think the community is behind the green energy transition. That's my understanding. Has it been codified completely? No, not yet, but we are trying to
This
reduce
is-
our emissions.
This is one of the pegs that is a challenge to actually make happen.
The renewable energy, the generation of renewable energy is very reliant on batteries because of its variability, excuse me. So that is why we want to give an opportunity to batteries. However, I should say this is energy storage. It does not necessarily have to be lithium ion. There are other ways of doing energy storage.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say that. That's
There is
important.
compressed air, there is kinetic energy. You can spin up a spring in the daytime and release it for the energy it's stored in the evening.
And the code should be written so it allows for
It's
various types of
purposely
energy storage,
vague.
plus even for battery storage, for different chemistry. You really don't know what's going to come with battery storage, right?
That's
Right
right.
now it's
Lithium
it
could be something else.
salt in the future.
Iron and air is.
So it should
going.
indicate that.
And you may
Okay,
have,
now we have about really 5 minutes, I think, left here because we have a whole
Sure.
agenda to go
We can
through.
keep. yeah,
Right, but
sure.
we can continue this. at a-
Right.
I have
secret is
Go
required
ahead.
for any of these, right?
Yes, it is one of the provisions.
One
is
action.
Type
Right.
2 and type.
Just a couple of comments.
Yes,
The
please.
first, I believe that tier 3 requires that you have to have solar or some sort of energy to put into the batteries.
Yes.
So it's not
Co-located?
Yeah, thank you. I was stumbling with the words.
It's quite all right. I've played with the word for a long time. Yes.
So it's not just it's a combination. So it's going after energy as well as then storing it.
Quite right.
So it's not a case where the applications we had where they were going to take the power from LIPA when it was cheap and sell it back when it was, so it's not just an arbitrage facility. And
Yes.
my second point is, of the 32 that we think we could do, how many of them have you looked at whether they have the type of linkage to LIPA to actually make it efficiently inexpensive?
That was one of the key undertakings of the steering committee. We consulted what's called the hosting capacity map. We looked at all the distribution lines. We were able to see what kind of voltage they had, what capacity was for charging and discharging on those lines. And because we knew it wouldn't make sense to have allow for a bunch of areas where there was not enough grid to actually take the energy and put it back. So it was part of our analysis. Okay. The developers, on the other hand, have stressed that they don't see the potential sites as being adequate, and they stress that interconnection alone can cost upwards of $2 to $3 million, even for a modestly sized battery energy storage. And then you would have something called a transmission bridge, which is where they put an underground cable, and those can be $5 million a mile. So these things get really, really expensive the further you get away. That makes the train, because the transmission line follows the railroad, that's a key area. Anything over 10 megawatts needs to connect on Long Island to the transmission lines. So we took these things into account as we developed sites. And I would just add to the co-location aspect, that the battery energy storage is limited by how much energy is generated by whichever renewable is there. If it generates 5,000 kilowatt hours a day on average, they would be allowed a battery that would store 5,000 kilowatt hours.
So electric car plug-ins are not involved in any of this?
We did put an exemption that say there was a car mechanic that had a bunch of batteries at his site and he was working on electric vehicles, that those would not be considered the battery energy storage. That's about the only interlinkage with EVs.
Okay, so you want to just summarize what your issues are to date? I mean, I know there's a public hearing coming up.
There is another one on the 25th at 6 p.m., yes.
Okay.
You had one on the 11th, right?
That's correct.
So there was coastal evacuation routes. There
Yeah.
was the consideration of 500 foot.
Mm-hmm. The 300 foot
And
to the
just
property.
explaining what the difference of the maps would look like.
Okay.
Definition of municipal yards or municipally owned
Absolutely.
property.
And is municipal just the town or the villages?
Right, yes.
Tighten that up, okay?
But you support peer review though, right? That's a good idea, right? So we should say that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no different than when we bring the consultant in for traffic. I mean,
Absolutely.
we don't have the expertise, and I don't think anybody in town hall does.
Right.
And you said all of these would be considered a type 1 under SECRA?
For type 2 and type 3, yes.
Tier
I'm
one.
sorry.
Can you just say, yeah? The words matter at this point.
Tier
Tier 1, 2, and 3
Just tier 2 and 3 are type 1.
are type 1.
But
Yeah.
tier 3 has to get approved by the town board before it comes to us. So
Yes.
Right.
the town board would carry out the secret analysis at that point. Not
And you'd be involved agencies, because you'd still have to review it on your
Okay.
level. Okay, great. At least we gave them some guidance.
Yeah, but it's incomplete, so please tell them they're still reviewing this. This is not a final.
Yes, so we are
same.
extending the moratorium for 3 months. That's the intention, at least. It's up to public hearing. while we refine this. So
Okay.
Do you want to say that you'd want another opportunity?
Yes,
to-
absolutely,
this
we
is
do.
Initial comments.
Yeah,
but you're
because
gonna
he only went over-
At your next meeting, you're gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I
Formalize
personally would say
comments.
that I think it's way, 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 way better.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's well thought out, but it's a lot of information.
it is.
Well, and
Like,
like this is like codifying a centralized strategy to taking pressure off of the power grid, but they could also consider codifying decentralized strategies like what George said, and in residential, especially high square footage residential.
Well, yeah, I
So-
think your point is like encouraging, we should make it encouraging.
Stop encouraging
smaller-
and start mandating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, encouraging, or mandating.
So is that 0 to 60?
Yeah, I would say the town needs to be careful about mandating or even encouraging, because there are problems with these batteries. It can't
Right
be
now.
ruled out. However, on that point, Green Mountain from Vermont had bought batteries for every residence, and they used them in concert to manage their electricity. So it is not unheard of.
Or you can do it via the design. I don't know how that fits in with code right now, with the building code, that they have to achieve a certain designation for LEED or for different square footage.
It's basically requiring right now solar and geothermal for bigger
certain-
houses. That's
okay.
you have to. It doesn't say you have to do that, but in order to make the LEED's the rating, you have to do it
Right.
for the larger houses.
I think one of the other points was to be flexible in terms of amending the legislation as technology changes.
Yes. We tried to put in as much possible about updates. Any updates become part of the code. We did a lot of adoption by reference. This space is highly regulated by many, many different standards.
Yeah,
Now, I
that's
don't-
where I thought it had gone, but
Now,
I
does
just wanted to-
everybody feel comfortable passing this without seeing it in
Can I just
Type
throw in
form?
one other, and I don't know if it would work or not, but you have the designated coastal evacuation routes. There's no mention of the railroad tracks. I think some consideration should be to how close you want to put one of these to a functioning railroad.
Understood, but again, just mentioning the transmission lines being running, that is
That's true.
the grid.
That's true. They do run right along the
So in
tracks, you're
one
right.
sense, it encourages you to put it near the railroad tracks. In another sense,
Absolutely.
have to worry
Very
about
connected, that's very, but it still can be set back over the road itself.
Yes.
Certainly the connection.
Okay, it's certainly worth thinking about.
And there were 3 pieces of legislation. I think we focused on one, or have we kind of put them all together in our discussion?
So yeah, there's the building code, right?
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 39, there's 162, special exception, and then there's the energy overlay, the big picture
That's
overarching
the lining of the zone.
TB.
So what is this that we just reviewed?
Well, we were kind of focused on special exception standards, which is under
Okay.
your purview.
Okay.
How you can refine what you were going to be doing.
So maybe we can, at our next session, have a work session to discuss the other aspects of it.
Certainly.
And also, there's no mention in here of LIPA. I mean, have you worked with LIPA? Is LIPA going to invest in additional grid?
That we had Gary Stevens. Thankfully we had him on our steering committee. He's a VP with LIPA. He gave us a lot of good advice. We did have NYSERDA as well, and some other industry experts. It is their mandate to upgrade the transmission and distribution lines, as that's why they're there. That's why we pay our rates.
Can it be more specific than that? Because they've been saying that for years,
Yes.
and there's never been an upgrade. Has there?
There has been.
Well,
Where?
Deerfield, for example, is getting there's a brand new run going on Deerfield Road. I know they continually are upgrading, but
And they
I can't
did the
speak to-
upgrade from the Southampton Village. That's where we have that visual benefit analysis adjustment for Scuttle Hole Road people that I pay for. So that was done 3-4 years ago. There has been some upgrades, but not
And every year they come out with it's a yellow book, I think it's called, but it is their plan of action for the upcoming year. They assess where they are and what they want to
And
do.
so does it coordinate with all of this? Or are we speaking in silos?
No, they have been on board. Mr. Stevens did actually see this code himself, and we spoke about it together, and he gave us his advice as well. So we are working with LIPA. We're actively trying to work with developers, NYSERDA. We are getting as much feedback as we can. It's not a foregone conclusion.
Okay.
So one last question from me. He's mentioned that there would be remote access camera
Remote operations center.
For all 3 tiers?
That would be predominantly.
Seems 2 and 3.
2 and 3 are the
And
ones.
that's 24/7?
Exactly.
Okay.
That can be a network. There's a network and a remote operator.
Okay.
There's some provisions on both of those.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to request that you type up this referral and bring it back to us later this afternoon so we can vote on it,
Okay.
and then we can move on.
Okay,
All right?
great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Seth.
Seth.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Claire.
Thanks, Claire.
You're welcome, no problem.
You want to go right into watermill building? Oh, so I have to close out of the work session and go back into the afternoon session, which we're doing. And Claire, do you want the watermill building supply?
Yes.
Do we
So,
have applicants here?
we do. Yep. Do you want to do the subdivision first, the site plan? Do you want to do it together?
I think we should do it together.
It's together. I mean, it's like the front and back of the hand.
It
Right?
really is, but they are 2 different reports, so, and the deadline's not today, so. we
You
can
just want to review
I
it?
just want to review it, get some
Right.
feedback from you, and we can tighten things up,
Okay.
so.
Want to give us your name for the record, please?
Yes, good afternoon, Robert Fischetti, Fischetti, 20 Hampton Road, Southampton.
Robert Fischetti, and
It's the Audiello for the breaker room.
Looks like you're doing the 2, right? For watermill.
Yeah, so what's the second one?
So it's watermill building supply number 2 and it's number 7.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Farrell Trade Supply Group with the owner of the property.
is it Farrell?
Yeah, FARRL. Thank you.
We're familiar with that name.
Not yours.
Not yours, but the name. Okay, so we're going to do the subdivision first?
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
Let's do the
That's-
2-lot subdivision.
Yeah,
It's-
it's got the comments, pre-submission is more of like the feedback. I would put the overall plan up, if you wanna take a look at that, that's got everything on it.
Okay. So Claire did a draft of this, so we're just discussing the draft now, and then she'll bring it back in 2 weeks.
We'll
can
clean
vote on
up,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this
Oh, you
is,
want to send one more plan on there?
yeah, I'm going to, I wanna pass out these out. So this is the pre-app report, and these are the comments that are attached with that.
I have a note that I didn't see the report, just the reso on the site plan.
Yeah, I did not give you the pre-submission report,
Okay.
and I forgot to email it to you, and I emailed it to him last
So
night.
I'm not,
Yes, the pre-submission report you did not get.
okay.
Okay, Claire, you're on.
I'm on, okay. This is the overall site plan. It's got both the subdivision shown and the buildings, so I think it's effective showing everything. Here's the overall site plan.
Thank you.
Okay. So it's 5.9 acres. It's improved with existing buildings for a home improvement and rental equipment center. It's an HB zoning district, 110 Montauk Highway. It's a 2-lot subdivision proposed, so it's minor. It is an unlisted action. Technically, if it was just looking at in a vacuum, it would be unlisted. However, because the new project generates more than 50 parking spaces, we would be way over, and the whole thing is looked at as a type 1 action. We'd be doing secret on both actions. So, So the town comprehensive plan doesn't make your specific recommendations for the immediate area, but generally with commercial areas, the master plan encourages buildings in the front and the parking in the side and rear, and cross access. I should add that. So I just gave you the aerial and a little overview of the site plan, standard plan. Now the code has been revised very recently to require a cluster plan and any circumstances, even commercial. But in this case, you didn't find that there was any significant warrants, like no agricultural, no wetlands, no issues. So you waived the cluster requirements. It is commercial, so there's no park requirements. The public hearing was held on January 9th, and no comments were received during the hearing nor during the provided 10-day written comment period. The referrals, I have them separate. We can look at. And I can
Fire is first.
Yes. Fire first.
In your packet.
In the packet, fire department's first? Okay.
Then say much, and then fire district.
Right.
Like that. Southampton.
Yeah, Tom Houghton said the monuments on the subdivision, that's a typical requirement. The fire marshal, fire apparatus, no, not really comments. Fire district said, as a result of the nature of the use of the property, the board requests installation of a hydrant at the westernmost entrance. New York State DEC, these are comments related to the northern long-eared bats and the clearing window. Conservation, so the tract is located greater than 200 feet landward of the nearest wetlands, as the tract is located in the town's high priority water quality improvement zone in the Suffolk County designated Mecox Bay and tributaries watershed. The new commercial building should be serviced with a nitrogen reducing IA system. Landscape plans and any modified street tree planting specifications need to be forwarded for review and comments. New commercial buildings should be equipped with solar panels in order to reduce energy demand. That's good. So the recommendations related to the subdivision. So in order to proceed with the subdivision, a variance will be required from the zoning board of appeals to permit the existing square footage to remain on the smaller lot. The applicant is proposing to demolish the rear buildings and covered storage area and building one new 24,975 square foot building for storage.
Is there a reason why the lots are being subdivided?
Is there a reason? The reason the property is being subdivided is to utilize the unused area on the east side for the plumbing building that we're proposing in the site plan.
And that couldn't be built without the subdivision?
No, not without the subdivision.
But you need to get a variance for the other lot?
Yes, yes. Not for the lot itself, like the subdivision doesn't require any area variance as far as the size of the lot. Just
15,000 square
it's the
feet
15,000
is the code for highway business.
And then number two, lot number one is currently improved with existing 17,386 square foot building. I should say, and covered storage area. And approximately, and that number is wrong, it's 26,647 square feet of building. That 24,975 is that new building they're building in the back.
So this is 26?
26,647. That's what I got from the numbers when looking at the site plan. Lot number two is currently utilized as outdoor storage and parking. Access with the subdivision, the proposed lot is said to add to a second curb cut, and this is why I put discussion. Tom had pointed out that there was a DOT memo, right?
Yes.
Related to this.
Yes, we submitted last time. And I also have the application that prompted the DOT memo, which we realized that we proceeded a little early with it to get the DOT's comments. We had passed that out, but we didn't actually pass out, which I can pass out now. which is the application to the DOT, which also includes our DOT consultant Ron Hill's explanation of trip generation and his general analysis of the additional curb cut.
You need a magnifying glass to read it. It's 4-point type.
Yes. The consultant's comments are the last page in our regular.
It's mouse print.
Not user-friendly.
Nope.
But really, at this stage, we have the initial comments from the DOT. They were all positive. There was no concern as far as proximity to other curb cuts. There was no concern after our consultant had pointed out the expected trip generation and everything else. There was no concern about a traffic study or anything like
There's
that.
the DOT comments, but they were addressed to the applicant and not
to
you.
us.
That's why they're not.
Like I said,
in
we're trying to just be proactive, and
I
we took that step.
understand, but we still have our issues about this subdivision when we are trying to limit the traffic and access to 27. You've designed it in such a way that you've not even entertained a common entrance into this parcel for circulation. I mean, these are all planning issues that it's our obligation to bring to you and for you to entertain.
We have, and Vinny here can speak to that even more, but we have entertained every different way to enter this property, to move around the property. One of the things that we passed out previously that I can pass out again is our map of interior flow that we put a lot of consideration into as far as how to move around within the site, and which obviously springs off of the entrance into the site. One of the reasons that we went ahead with a DOT consultant early on was because we understand it's a concern to the town, but the real numbers that the DOT consultant puts together and then presents to the DOT and their response, those are the critical numbers that we're talking about. And if the town is concerned, it seems like the concern should, we should be looking at those numbers to see how much of a concern it is and how our layout addresses those. And it's the best.
I understand that. If in the future the berm here should disappear, you've got dozens of cars in the front.
We're happy to have somebody saying the berm stands permanently.
Everything that we strive for here, parking in the rear, closing off access to 27, this is just contradictory to that, in addition to thousands of square feet, over 15,000 square foot limit for highway business.
Yes,
So,
and we will speak to the zoning board about that. A lumberyard, not just this lumberyard, but any lumberyard use is very different in the sense of parking. The rear yard needs to be used much more than, say, a Target or anything else where parking in the rear is just parking in the rear. Here, there's a lot of activity in the rear. There's safety issues. There's customers going back to pick up products.
Understand that.
It's a very different animal. As far as the berm, we like the berm too. We're happy to make that a permanent part of the property.
What you have in front of you there is the existing circulation pattern on the first sheet and the proposed on the second sheet. To further expand upon what Rob is saying here, similar to this board's application with the pre-app and getting guidance from this board with respect to the development of this property and how we're proceeding, we felt it be applicable here to go to the DOT as well to get their comments. By no means in going to them first was it our intentions to circumvent this board's concerns. And should there be traffic impacts that this board feels are potentially impacting what we're proposing here, I'm confident that we can demonstrate to the board that what we're proposing here will not have a significant impact to what is presently out there. As I said, by no means were we looking to circumvent your concerns.
we haven't seen from you to us any possible flow with a center entrance, with some of the recommendations that we've made. Even if it's just a tissue overlay to say, look, we've looked at that and here's how it would work. Nothing. We've had only this to reinforce your position. So I'm giving you some pushback on it because we go on and on with this.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
may
know.
have investigated that, but it would be good for us to see that so that we can come up to speed with how you've come to this hard decision.
I understand. I apologize. When we submitted that last time in response to those questions, when we proceeded from that meeting to the public hearing, my understanding was that there was a level of comfort that that had been investigated, and that it was, going to stand the test of further development from the professionals as far as, the full application to the DOT and the full site plan and subdivision to this board. But certainly, we want to show the board whatever they need to see to make a decision. We weren't trying to withhold that. I just misunderstood that when we had proceeded from the meeting that we presented the color-coded map to the public hearing, I didn't realize you were still looking for an alternate submission. So we'll discuss and
Well,
come back.
just looking at what you've submitted, I'm looking at it, the rest of the board is looking at it. The eastern portion of that building is totally constrained. You have virtually no setback. You have pedestrian circulation, is that what the green line is? Customer path.
Their card path.
Their car paths. Up in the top, there's a legend with respect to the color of the vehicle.
It says truck pass, customer pass, proposed lot line.
If I may, the red dotted line in that drawing, in the before portion, shows a lot of intersecting of customer traffic and truck traffic for loading.
Are we looking at this document?
Yeah,
Or the other
the first one,
This
the
is the fir- this is-
SK1.
This
Is it
is
existing and
proposed.
proposed?
Yeah, so you're going to see red lines and green lines intersecting. And in the proposed circulation, we're really separating customer traffic and truck traffic, which we think makes for a much safer scenario and a more efficient scenario. So right now, as we're unloading trucks and customers are in getting their stuff, the contractors, they're intersecting, right? So with this newer building, the customers come in on the right, they go through that new rectangular building, and they exit. No U-turns, minimal intersection, truck loading, unloading. In the prior scenario, people are making U-turns in the yard, and we have truck traffic and customer traffic intersecting. So.
Yes, because you have the space. That's why they do it. It's wide open. Is this what you're talking about, this
Another
one?
reason we're doing it is these buildings in the back all face, I think, north-south. With this new
No, I-
longer east-west building,
I
it's a much
understand that.
smoother circulation pattern
I understand.
for both customers and trucks. And that eliminates the U-turns and the intersections.
When you're talking trucks, you're talking about trucks bringing in new material.
Yeah, just raw lumber.
Not the guy, the contractor
that
who
brings
has a
the
truck,
No.
because
The
they're
red
both
is the guy
trucks.
with the semi bringing
Yeah.
material in, and the green is the guy
No,
with
the
the single
east-west orientation for those buildings makes sense. There's no
Perfect.
doubt about it.
As well as our own trucks being
What I was
loaded.
commenting you about people making U-turns is that because you have the space to do it. People will make U-turns if there's open, that's what I'm talking about. Now that's constrictive, right, with your
Yes,
plan?
with the proposed, yes.
So I think what you're hearing is it's very tight on the east side
side.
of Building 2 because of the subdivision of the two lots and the size of the building on Parcel 2. So the circulation for both green and red is tight on that east side. And then also looking at one curb cut. And we would like to see that alternate plan.
Yeah. We've gone out to 15,000 square feet because that's the limit, right? Is there any possibility that you could bring it in smaller than that? Can you reorient the building so that the smaller side is, short end is facing the road? I mean, there are lots of ways to massage this site plan
Sure.
to accommodate what you want and what we're trying to look for.
So what we will do is we'll do some sketch studies illustrating various layouts and hopefully that will give a little more context for how we arrived at this.
Exactly.
We'll do the work and we'll share it with you.
Am I correct that Speedway is just to the east?
Yes.
Yeah, there's no,
Yes.
Speedway, and then the,
To the rear.
and then,
Mexican,
um,
the Sabalosa.
Scuttle
Rosa?
Business Park
And then it
Right.
does have cross-access.
There's a previous cross-access from another
Is
application
it up?
for this board.
Yeah.
This is the
Yes.
there's the verification.
So certainly we can connect to Speedway. The two
But I
buildings in
think
the
there's
rear, I'd have to pull their site plans. Hard to tell what they have planned for the back if it would abut right into parking, but we're open, we're open to, whatever's required. The building to the front on the west side, their whole driveway situation doesn't go up to that property line. But again, if the board feels like it would be helpful,
There's cross-access on the front building that is Creative Touch Landscaping, and it shows it on its site plan. On the
right,
west
that's the
side.
one, yes,
In
that's the
the
one that's
back,
already.
Claire, in the back of that site?
That new development to the back has a retaining wall that's built along the common property line. That was part of their site plan approval.
And so you think it doesn't match up?
Yeah, grade-wise it doesn't. I don't
You
know
how
how
high
it
that
would.
retaining wall is in?
What's that?
How high is that retaining wall?
I want to say it's more than 4 feet, that's for sure,
Okay,
This is on the west.
on the east side.
I think you said.
So you see the existing building near the roadway? That's the darker one.
Yeah,
And the buildings in the back are different heights, all oriented in,
yeah.
well, we think the wrong direction.
So you want to take those out and build this new
Just go
building?
horizontally.
Yeah, I get
In
that.
terms of the new building, like, that's really where we're proposing, we can study different orientations, different configurations.
And do you need 15,000 square feet? I mean, you've maxed it out.
I think what
For which building?
you're talking
The new
about the
building.
new building
I'm
on
saying there's
parcel
nowhere else to put the
one.
new building.
We're
is what I'm
talking
saying.
about
That's right.
the new building, the plumbing building on
Yeah,
parcel
there's
2.
nowhere else to put that building, is really what I'm
But the
saying.
size of it could be slightly reduced to
If
improve the
you all-
circulation pattern on the
Circulation,
east side.
to improve circulation around. I mean, circulation on this site, I would think for you is critical. You got trucks coming in, going out.
And again, the way this is configured, we think it's an amazing improvement in the circulation. We think our customers are gonna like this. It's safer, it's better for loading.
Mm-hmm.
But we will do the work, and, we don't wanna come here and try and jam through a single option.
Okay.
We'll do the work and come back.
Your new building is the new old building is a beautiful building. It's a wonderful addition. The berm is great, but we have to look at not only what's here now, but what's going to come in the future. And you've got all the parking in the front. Understand you need to keep the rear clear because you've got a lot of you've got vehicles
Yes.
moving
We
around.
did try to use a little bit of parking in the back of the new building, a little on the side.
It's
so
very
We tried, yeah.
Material storage area.
Part of where we showing this second entrance is there with the relationship to the Rose Hill Road that's on the southerly side of the road. That's very critical from an engineering and alignment standpoint.
Tell me, where are you talking about?
Rosa Road.
See where Rose
Yeah.
Hill Road
The
is?
new entrance is
It's going to be
situated
directly opposite.
When the reason why you create intersections, and why you don't want offsets, is you avoid conflicts with maneuvers.
Yeah, we're aware of that, Mr. Guardiola.
Okay.
We're aware of that.
Well, I just wanted to
Yeah.
point that out to you, why.
One other thing, if it's not clear, is our plumbing business right now is embedded.
It's in the building,
It's
yeah.
in the building, but our plumbing customers come through a lumber, like a Home Depot type retail.
I have done it. I didn't mind
Okay.
it so much. I thought it was
And
interesting.
also,
I love-
the
I
loading
love hardware
requirements,
stores.
the racking requirements, how we rack and store for plumbing
Yeah.
is different than how we rack
So
and
you
store for
want to,
plumbing.
calve it off. I understand that. It's a question of a site, that needs to be improved for circulation, size, et cetera.
Yes, and we hear all of your comments about circulation, and we will,
Okay.
as you said, we'll come
I
back.
can just speak, and I appreciate you submitted this additional information on the work permit and everything. Now, Ron Hill done engineering. You said he wrote the narrative on the last page. He says in here that the ITE land use code, building materials lumber store was selected as the best fit. That yields an estimate of 143 trips per hour. He backs that down by saying because this will be primarily plumbing supplies, that it won't generate as much traffic as that ITE estimate.
It's also
might
plumbing supplies
work.
that already exist there. These are a lot of customers that are already going to that site.
So he's backing it down from 143 trips per hour to 40 trips per hour on a Saturday PM. You know, that, I've worked with Ron a long time, I have great respect for Ron, but, you know, he's cutting the estimate from the ITE manual by, 70% or 60%.
Isn't it based on him feeling the category was an approximation?
It was,
anyway?
right, it was, yeah.
I think
It was building material, what is it, lumber and building materials is the category. Building materials and lumber store was selected as the best fit. Maybe there is no category for,
Well, that's
plumbing
why he
supplies.
kind of interpolated based upon what,
Right.
Again,
And
unfortunately,
I
Ron was not
understand.
available today. He's out of the country, but most certainly will be before you on this application.
I mean, it's
I'm
a
sure.
judgment call he's making here, and, as I said, I've worked with Ron a lot, I have a lot of respect for him. But he's saying, instead of 143 trips, which is what's in the manual for this category, he's saying 40 trips.
I think
That's a
there's
whole lot
It
less.
should be a traffic study, right?
Well,
Traffic study
that's what I was
for
gonna
this.
ask, is any existing counts been done, at your existing store to see how much traffic it is generating? And
We
as
don't
we,
have any current data.
okay. Seeing how much traffic's currently being generated might be, we haven't asked for a traffic impact study, right?
Not yet, this is the
Right.
time to do it. So
Right.
if you want
That's
it,
what,
we would do this, and I think in this case, if you do, then you would have, you'd hire consultants on your end. Yeah.
I understand that's a possibility. I just would point out that based on Ron's analysis that he submitted, the DOT didn't push back on that in his estimation in their report. I just wanted to mention that.
You applied for a commercial access highway work permit, and you did include this, which
Yes, yeah,
I'm
that's
sure
what I'm
is
saying is
good.
their report was based off of that
I
analysis
think,
in that application.
Jackie is talking about, the DOT doesn't concern themselves a whole lot with land use aspects. They look at driveways. And they gave you several sheets of technical specs of how to build the driveway and the sidewalks properly. But they're not really in the business of what we're in the business of, which is projecting out and saying, what's the rate of development? Is it too intense for the property? The county and the state don't really get in that.
Yeah.
I don't know, you, Claire, you've
I
been doing
agree.
this a lot longer.
They don't
I mean,
do that.
I don't know, there's many times, Jackie, where they've come back and said, no.
No, they say you shall have one curb cut or two curb cuts. That's the extent of
No
what they say.
left-hand turn?
Yeah.
So I don't think they're doing a, qualitative kind of evaluation that we're required to do. So,
They do it based on the type of use though, so that they're considering it based on,
Charts.
it's some land use involved in it.
I
They're
think-
not looking at it like McDonald's.
They're also saying, okay, this guy's got 250 foot of frontage. We typically allow, a curb cut for each business. You know what I mean?
It's a
I think
formula.
It's a formula, yeah. But I think this warrants a type 1. I want to put that in there.
Yes,
Yeah.
and as Vin said, we're not trying to replace this board's review with the DOT's review, so we understand that those are separate.
Can we also get, before the next discussion, comment from the consultant, Ron, as to why he lowered those numbers so dramatically?
Well, you can have them come for the next meeting, you think?
Well, not until we get our own traffic.
yeah, I
it's
think,
Premature?
Yeah,
I
premature.
think we should get some actual
We'll be back
traffic.
on
We
the
need
20th.
we need to look at our own traffic.
So we don't want to, we don't have to. Because we're going to get a traffic study.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to prepare a traffic study, obviously, and then we would have the review, and we'll go from there.
And is there a problem with the western driveway? Because the DOT does mention can't encroach on the neighbor's property.
There's a slight encroachment of about 4
feet.
When
feet.
it flares out.
Yeah,
Right.
So we're going to have to shift that a little bit.
You are going to have to move that a little.
Yeah, I think it's an area of about 20 square feet that we're going to have to eliminate.
Right. Pain in the neck.
I think you touched on a lot of the site plan issues too, so which is great. I just described, I haven't given it to you, so let me do that. This is
Also,
the
when you're
pre-submission
looking at the
report.
reconfiguration of things, take a look at the material storage area and see if it's possible at all to push it back.
That
And not
is,
be in its-
the idea of that is that it's nothing it stands there for any extended period of time. It's unload the truck and then put it in the building, or a truck comes in and it's just to be an organized spot to unload a truck, but then it's never going to stay there. It's just a transitionary spot.
Okay, but even if you could move it
Yeah, no,
further.
I'll still consider that. I just want to make sure you understood what
Yeah.
it was. Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize it was sort of just a dumping area.
It's just a transition
But
area.
what
yeah.
it'll give you is it'll give you a little bit more room to play with your new building. Okay, Claire,
Well,
so,
that's the property line, the new property line.
I guess you want that. So, you know, a big tractor trailer comes in or a flatbed with pallets, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
it needs to have
and they just dump
proximity to
there.
this lumber storage and to the plumbing
Yes, to be able
storage
to put on
area.
racks and everything else.
So,
yeah. So what are we doing, Claire?
So this is the pre-submission report. This is be the site plans when you proceed to
Which
that
we
point.
just did, right?
Yes, you talked about it. I just describe everything again. Describe the application, the type 1 action. It is located in the New York State archaeologically sensitive area, so the area that's being subdivided and improvements would have to have a phase 1A and B and the traffic study.
Okay, so does this list our concerns?
It really does, but let me take a look at it. I think you've seen the appearance of the building before, but I know I'll give that, we'll look
Yeah,
at the next
yeah,
time. But yeah, I'll incorporate all your
The building
comments in
looks
it.
good.
Yeah, so I'll do the comments, you know, you wanna retain the buffer in the front, those kinds of things.
and
Yeah,
site
all-
circulation.
And site circulation, and particularly to the east.
So I'll incorporate that, you'll see this for the next meeting. Okay,
Okay.
for consideration.
So what, are you going to bring some tissue overlays?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
we'll bring something back to show you our
Okay.
thought process on how we landed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for all your time.
Okay.
Sorry, go on.
Of course.
I mean, I just looking at your situation. Is there any value to, if you're looking at one entrance, you abandon the existing entrance and use the one opposite Roosevelt Road and really circulation around that and choose more elongated buildings closer to the highway?
Yeah, Georgia, so a center major driveway, right?
Well, you might have,
Opposite,
the thing is that having it in the center is going to be difficult because you offset very close to.
Is it
Well,
that far
that's
off?
what, that was the point I was making before.
Roosevelt Road opposite and making that the main entrance into the side and then
Yeah.
really use circulation.
And
around
closing
that.
the western.
Closing the left one, yeah.
I think you did look at one in the center, and that was.
Well, that was part of it. It just didn't line up with Rose Hill, so it was a matter of then putting it on Rose Hill and making that a, you know,
Because then the
I think
exit,
that's what
the
George
exiting
is.
truck has to sort of come through.
Are they
the-
forcing all the trucks to come in and out the same curb cut? We'll study all the options. I think it could be smoother and safer with 2 curb cuts, but we'll study the one curb cut, we'll study different building orientation,
Yeah,
we'll study different setbacks, there'll
okay,
be sketch studies,
yeah,
and we'll present them to you.
thank you.
we have a lot of that.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome, no problem. Oh, yeah.
Is there property between the street and the, or are they right on Willow Road?
I think there must be other property.
You figure out if it's like
You can see it,
Willow.
or
Wind Center are taking care of
There
it.
has to be another property.
oh, there's an application there.
Oh, is that the other
Across the
thing?
street, there's a historic house that's turning into cannabis, but then another.
Okay, Anthony, Whispering Oaks, lot 13.
This is nice and easy. You might recall a couple of years ago, the village of Sagaponic, we had the Whispering Oaks subdivision, which had covenants and restrictions for clearing. And they wanted to come in because it's in the village of Sagaponic, if you
And,
recall.
and do a blanket.
And
thing.
which they couldn't do, if you recall, they have to do it individually. So at that time, you actually, at Wayne's recommendation, the covenants just require a simple majority +1 of the board with no public hearing. Wayne suggested having a hearing at that time, notified all the
All of
neighbors.
them.
Some came and said, we all want to do this. Not too many have come back, but we do have one for
Okay,
this property.
so they were in
It's
agreement.
1258 Town Line Road. It's lot 13 of Whispering Oaks. And I'm recommending, it says resolved that the planning board hereby amends the clearing restriction from 25% to 35% for lot 13 of the subdivision map of Whispering Oaks, subject to review and approval of the legal documents by the town attorney's office.
Hey, it's very straightforward. You said it all. Wayne doesn't have to say a word.
He's still gonna build it,
Let's hear
though.
your voice.
How big are these properties? Just curious.
So you can bill your clients.
Right, okay. So motion by Gloria and second by George. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Seth, you
I
are,
have a road abandonment application for you to consider. Here's a draft resolution.
Pine Neck.
45 Ocean in East Quad, part of a 1928,
Hmm?
1911
1911.
subdivision. Let me get that, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place here. So yes, it's in East Quogue, it's in the R20 old file map as well. The owner, Mr. Natalini, would like you to consider the abandonment of Pine Neck. It is to the north of his parcel. This has also been abandoned at an adjacent 34 Ocean, has a 20-foot abandonment on this same paper road. So
So it'll mean that the whole road then will be abandoned. His
no,
half
that
and
is
the
an
other half.
adjacent, I should say across Caddy Corner
Oh,
on the paper road.
so he's abandoning half.
So this will be a 20-foot abandonment
Right.
of a, for this lot, which is how many square feet?
Okay. Any questions on that? George, motion?
I want to know how close it is to the ocean, since it's Ocean Avenue.
In name only, I'm afraid.
Fine, listen. Motion.
Motion by George.
Second.
By Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1
It's all
absent.
optimistically negative.
Right. Did Claire go away?
I'll go back.
She just wants to take her box downstairs, I'll text her.
Seth, why don't you do 45 Foster if you're there?
Okay, it's on that paper.
That's Prina.
Oh, that's Brenna, sorry. No. No.
I told her I'll text her as well.
Okay, but Anthony, why don't you go ahead then with Eastport Bible?
Church.
Yeah.
Right, makes sense, yeah. That is
I've attached the report and the resolution.
number 10. Which is this one?
There's more there that really needs to be. It's a project. It's a good project.
Number 10.
Anyone here for this?
I don't know, probably not.
Got a whole stack.
You are? Come on up.
Oh, there you go. Oh, sorry. You said you were coming. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second.
Good afternoon.
Good, how? Do you have the report?
I haven't seen the, I saw the draft report from last month.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the.
You have an extra copy.
Do we have an extra?
There's the report and the resolution.
Oh, okay, right.
Go ahead, Anthony.
And the board remembers this project. They have the church here, right on the highway, Eastport Bible Church, and then they own the lots back here. The plan is to demolish the existing structure and then put up a community building, 6,000 square feet. Use this first sheet, which is very hard to read. That's much easier for the board to see. So I'll just keep it here. You can see community building over here, with the setbacks, parking in the back, the existing improvements on the road. So just going through the report real quick here. The first page, we did secret on this. It was a type 1 action because it was over 50 parking spaces, but the board issued a neg deck in August of 2024. We had a public hearing on October 10th, and it was closed at the 10-day written comment period. We didn't receive any comments. We did referrals, town engineer did a referral and recommend approval, actually. No other changes required by the engineer. They did a really nice job with the plans here. They really did. So he just has the fee that they have to pay and recommending approval. Fire prevention, I just grayed out their particular recommendation. Drainage to be relocated out of the roadways are capable of supporting heaviest apparatus of the Eastport Fire Department. Everything else at the standard requirements, and like all projects at the time of the building permit, it goes back to the fire marshal for further review. Highway Department stated there are no comments or concerns. The Suffolk County DPW came back with some recommendations. Again, like as we know, their standard ADA compliance and any changes needed along the roadway, so they made some recommendations, and I've incorporated those requirements into the site plan approval. Eastport Fire District had no further recommendations. The Historic Districts Board, and they gave us a letter October 16th, 2024. They go through some comments, some history. When they went to the Historics Board at the time, the proposed roof was a standing seam metal roof. I actually really liked the roof. I thought it looked really nice, but working with the Landmarks Board, they wanted it to be gray asphalt shingle to be consistent with what's on the church building, and that's what they agreed. So we're going to incorporate that into our approval as well. So they worked that out with them. Other than that, they had no further comments. Then I go through the site plan standards, traffic access. The new curb cut to provide access to the building sits over 175 feet from the intersection, so that's good. I do mention in my staff comments about some potential pedestrian, pathway or something from the church, from the church parking lot to the community building. Doesn't look like there's a lot of room for it, and it looks like the parking for the church and the parking for the community building are sort of separate entities. So I just happened to mention that in there if there was something, but it looks like they do have some stripe markings, which looks like that would be okay. So. Again, interior circulation and parking, it was the same comment. Everything looks good there. Landscaping and screening, they did a really nice job with the landscaping, and it includes, by the way, some new street trees and landscaping along here. They're going to maintain the existing street trees and put in some new ones. They did actually some new landscaping in the front here along the existing, which is good. Yeah, so all this is getting reworked a little bit. They have a much nicer planting plan in here, and I won't make any recommendations, in front of the church building. It looks nice sitting there, unobstructed. So that was good. Master plan. This has been a long-established church in the community, so I think we're okay there. There's really no natural features or cultural features other than the historic church, which is being maintained. G talks about pavement, and again, I just happened to mention the pedestrian access, and they do show something striped. Lighting, so the recommendation that will reduce the Kelvin to 2700 and then reduce the light fixtures to 10 feet. That's what we asked for. And then I grayed out some of the conditions that we would put in the approval, which are the standard lighting approvals. I talked about the facades, and the ARB approved this in October, and as I said with the Landmarks Board, they required the roof change, which the applicant has agreed. Drainage, the town engineer has signed off on the project. Public utilities, health department approval for the water supply and septic is required. Public address or sound system, nothing is proposed. Physically challenged access, ADA compliant parking spaces have been provided with the drop curbing, and it's in front of the building. Our energy conservation, so as you know, we have our standard blurb that we like to put in about incorporating certain design elements. And I did speak to the gentleman here about that. The church is in sort of a bit of a position. They, really can't do solar at this point and everything. And as for doing on-site charging stations, I think what the church was explaining to me is that there are people that are coming there staying for very long periods of time. They didn't know that would be necessary. So, we could talk about that when we do the resolution. Architecture, again, everything was approved by the ARB, and Landmarks made that one change. And then agricultural district, there's nothing there, not in the agricultural overlay. And then we have the general special exception standards. So I think, rather than go through A through M, I think would say the community building associated with the church meets all the standards. Again, they kept the access driveway off the intersection. They've incorporated some nice landscaping, doing some upgrades to the site, so I think it'll be good. Then if you go to page 10, there's actually some special standards specific to churches, and you need 200 feet and not less than 2 acres. This lot, when combined, they're over 2 acres. The frontage along the Montauk Highway is actually less than 200 feet, but that's an existing condition. And then the frontage along Tuttle is 275. All buildings and structures shall be 50 feet from any property line. It meets that standard. And lot coverage is well under the 20%. And then if you go to the resolution, page 2 of the resolution, you'll see the resolve approves the staff report that we just went through. And then the grayed out resolve, I just have to list all the plans. When you have 15 plans, I like to outline them, so I just have to add them to the resolution. But changes to the plan prior to signature, the changes per the Suffolk County DPW, as well as the Town Office of Fire Prevention. There were no engineer changes at this time. Changes to elevations and floor plans. Per the Landmarks Board, the elevations will change the roof material. Changes to the lighting plan, as we discussed, 2700 Kelvin maximum. Be sure that the photometric data shows all the foot candle at 0. I believe it does actually, but I'll double check that. I think it's addressed already. And lighted fixtures to be reduced to 10 feet. General conditions of the approval, all HVAC systems shall be screened or not visible from the road. No dusk to dawn lighting fixtures. All lighting shall be shielded downward. No public address or sound systems. Any signage shall be reviewed and approved by the planning board. And then the pre-construction meeting with the engineering division prior to construction starting. And then conditions prior to map signature, submission of the engineering review fee, the affidavit that we require indicating compliance with the site plan conditions, and then submission of the 6 sets of plans for signature, and then prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy, maintenance bond for a period of 2 years for the landscaping.
I think that the asphalt roof is a positive because that could allow solar in the future, where I don't think the metal roof would have.
Yeah, I'm not sure specifically on that, but you may be right on that.
I think I'm not 100%.
You may be right about that, Gloria, now that you say it, because I feel like someone said that to me recently. So, we would ask, church to look into it.
Down the road.
Can we have your name for the record?
Sure. My name is Craig Tillinghast. TillingHast.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Craig, I think last time you were in, there was one of the discussions was whether we're going to have a little kitchen in there or anything like that. Any shower, kitchen facilities?
There will be a small kitchen in the building. Basically for periodic church
little functions.
Yeah, church events or breakfast or ladies, whatever.
No, that makes sense.
I mean, it kind of goes with the general church use.
But it won't be a commercial kitchen.
No.
But that will have to still be reviewed by the health department.
Health department.
Yes, we do have conditional health department approval. We're just final paperwork to be submitted.
Nice.
Any other questions? George, you're moving it? Motion by George, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Prena,
Appreciate your
45 Foster Avenue. We have a lot to get through, folks. I have a couple of things that are probably pretty quick. This one is actually incomplete. Yeah.
What's missing?
What's missing? I'm sorry?
What's missing?
Oh, the elevations, building elevations. They're proposing to demolish the existing structures. This is a parcel that's in the LI 40, right just north of the railroad station in Bridgehampton. Yeah, that lot there with the cars. And they submitted an application to demo all of that and develop the site and put in a 7,500 square foot metal building. There's no building elevations yet. And they're actually, the owners let me know that they're still finalizing and might make some changes anyway. Okay. So it's incomplete for now.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion to deem it incomplete by
Second.
Gloria, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Claire, yep.
Loaves and fishes?
Did I lose him? Yeah.
We lost him. He was here just 2 seconds ago.
Yeah. Those and fishes, so they're getting close to signature on the plans, and they had 2 requests. One was to,
There you are.
You're right. Good to see you.
one was to phase projects. The phase 1 would be the commercial buildings in the front, and phase 2 would be the residents.
Right.
So I don't think
I don't think there's a problem with that.
So I can write that up.
Yeah.
The other one is that there was 5 trees along Butter Lane, and you got information from the expert
Yes.
that said that the trees were in bad condition. There were 3.
And they'd like to remove those trees
Yes.
The ones along Butter?
along Butter.
Because there's a clump of them in the corner.
Yeah.
Along Butter. There's 5 of them along Butter, 3 Zolkovas, and 2
talking
Maples. And here's some Martyrs. Got a couple copies.
I'm talking about,
I do have a couple copies.
can you
of
point out where they are?
Yep, so they're along the west side, along Butter Lane, and here, actually, that's the letter. And I printed out a copy of the plan. Actually, they show them on
not
the
the
site
trees,
plan.
yeah.
The site plan shows them. There are 5 trees along the site plan. I have more copies. This is the landscape plan, but you can see the trees in the
Aren't
right
they
of way.
already gone?
Are they already gone?
Everything's been clear cut, so, but there are some, like,
The ones in the right of way.
little ones right in the corner, right here, where I just drew that.
Mm-hmm.
This. You're not talking about those?
No, I'm talking about the 5 along the west
I
side.
think they're gone.
They might be, yeah.
There's construction
Yeah.
fencing up. I'll check to see.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretty scraggly, but then, we've indicated them to be replaced, correct?
His request is that they would be replaced at the end of the project,
Right.
like all the other plantings.
Okay.
I think because.
But before, when this is complete,
In
those should
phase
go
1.
in.
Yeah, phase 1.
Phase 1,
Yeah,
yeah.
so in phase 1.
Does
And
anybody
then
have
there
a
was
problem with phasing?
We had
No.
proposed, the last approved plan put plantings in the right-of-way, but moving them off the right-of-way. Did you want to address that?
No,
Okay.
because I was gonna make you do it anyways.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Okay, so we're in agreement with the phasing,
Yes.
We'll clear that one.
okay? Phase 1 and phase 2. Any timing on that? I mean, after phase 1 is totally complete, then they'll go into phase
I'm not
2?
going to phase 2, but
Right.
we have to do the joint, or the improvements required, so all the parking will have to be installed
Right.
regardless.
It's basically.
It's just the house.
Just the building
The
itself.
building and maybe that share, that
Mhm.
Yeah,
driveway.
that structure.
Yeah.
But all the common elements will be put in with phase 1.
Okay, and
Which
cross
is as soon as
access and all
possible.
that,
They're
yeah.
submitting for the building permits.
Now,
It will essentially, once we
Yeah.
get the final sign off.
it's a very bare corner now, very bare.
So with that, then we can have the site plan signed, and then we would apply for the building permit.
Okay, good.
Be nice to me.
Sorry?
Be nice to me.
Why?
Because I
I'm
have
always
to
nice.
sign it.
You have to, you can recuse.
Okay,
Just
so
the trees going back, same species, Silcova and the
what were they?
maples.
2 maples?
2 maples and 3
You know,
Silcova.
4 years ago, the town replaced like 14 trees along Main Street
Uh-huh.
because we had to take them down. They were, in bad condition. I
Yeah.
don't know if you'd want to try to match those. I
Yeah,
don't.
because they were actually the Bridgehampton people made a big deal about the kind of trees they wanted.
Okay.
So check those
Who would
out.
have that information?
I
Why
think
don't- can somebody just go look?
Tom H would have it in his file somewhere because we did all the work on it. Tom Houghton
Tom Houghton
would.
Okay,
That
so
was
the-
our Bridgehampton traffic safety plan.
It's gonna have to be street trees. I wanna
Yeah.
recommend 4 inches diameter, and then, we'll attempt to meet, to match that. If not,
Right, I
we'll
think
pick
they're
up street
plane
trees.
trees or.
Yeah, I
They
think
were London
Really?
play trees?
I
Would
can't
that be in
swear.
the overlay, the historic overlay, or is that just architecture?
I don't think that's just
recommendations?
architecture.
But maybe the historian would have some information
Is-
about it.
Okay, we'll
With the
get back
tree,
to you.
you're talking about the tree caliber?
4 inch.
4 inch, yeah.
Yeah, but the kind of
The
tree.
kind of.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at. So we'll get back to him on that, but
We could ask, who's the chair of the,
Civic, there's no,
no, of the landmarks board? You know.
Are there overhead power lines?
Wisnowski, yeah.
Are there overhead power lines in Butter?
Sorry?
I
Are there
feel like they
overhead power
are.
lines in Butter?
I feel like there are.
Yes.
You know, the planting really should probably have to meet whatever requirements they have to stay.
But that was part of the idea of the trees
Right.
that they put in on.
Exactly.
on
We spent a lot of
That's
Yeah,
time.
even if they could get a tree that doesn't doesn't grow too high, because then once light
There's
starts pruning
interference,
the trees, it
what's Asplund does it, I mean, they
Yeah.
chop it,
They just
butcher
hack
it.
them.
Well, I
That's
mean,
probably
they
what happened in
destroy
this
them,
case.
yeah.
yeah,
mean,
they really need
I know.
Okay, so listen,
The civics came up with short trees and tall trees,
We worked
depending
very-
upon where the power lines were.
We worked very closely with the CAC on that, so.
all right, so
There's a
there-
file.
so there's a
Pam Harwood
record
might
on it.
also-
There's a file, so I'll
Yeah,
ask
there's a
to pull
file.
up the file. Okay.
Whatever
can
the
I-
tree is, the tree is.
Can I call for a vote?
Motion?
Motion by Gloria, second by Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed,
Would you
abstentions.
identify yourself, sir?
Yeah, Carl
Benincasa.
Do we want to push that into your house to sign? or-
Six in favor, one absent. Thank you.
I just spent a half hour.
Is it loaves and bushes? That's why they call it that? So the owner?
Okay, moving on.
Starbucks,
And they want to live, and now they want to live
Bridgehampton,
on the property. Oh, could be for
Number 9.
employees.
See, I have B&B property, Starbucks, yes, okay. Didn't we do that?
because we did,
Oh, that's a
B&B.
sign,
Kind
yeah.
of like the Royals, you know, built something
Now,
on
is
the
this the
estate and
Starbucks near the
give them the
library?
house.
Yes. So basically, they're just refreshing their
I
signs.
know, I was,
Yeah.
Because they're closed right now.
They're closed, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're
refurbishing.
redoing the inside
Yeah.
too, but you can
I
see
was in the library
it's
Monday.
faded, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to get you the color chip, but it's the Starbucks color chip, so it's going to now look like this, brighter white.
So replacing in kind in place.
In kind.
Kind in place.
Okay.
This one is like a decal on the window.
Mhm.
Now it's going to be an insignia inside, non-illuminated. I left that as a condition. The only thing is that they have a beautiful beacon points is also on the side, so I'm having them take that down. You're not
That's the
allowed to have
upstairs
two.
tenant, yeah.
You're not allowed to have 2 signs on
No.
that property, so that is coming down. So those are my 2 conditions. A or B has approved them.
Okay,
So if those guys are good to go,
yeah.
approve it.
Motion by Gloria, second by George, all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Anthony Howard Irrevocable Living Trust. Is Seth working on the referral?
Yes, he is. That's what I was doing when I was downstairs.
Number 11, Howard Irrevocable Living Trust.
Yeah, the board will remember this. We've been looking at this for a long time now. It's actually legalized a second floor apartment above the garage on this property. This is a commercial property on Noyak Road, Village Business Zone. And it really, it's not much going on other than to legalize it. It's got a couple of retail commercial uses in the in the front building. And then in the first floor, on the back of that building, there's an
this
existing.
is where those little shops are.
Yeah.
In downtown Noyak.
In downtown, that's right, yeah, downtown. There's an apartment, an existing apartment that's CO'd on the first floor of the commercial buildings, and now we're looking to legalize the second apartment. And what they're doing, as part of the plan, they are upgrading the septic system. They're before the health department now. They're formalizing some of the parking, putting in some new drainage. So this was a pretty good plan. We don't love illegal uses, but in this particular case, part of what's happening is it's got to become affordable. So it's going to be covenanted that the unit will be an affordable unit in town. So
Do you have owner's endorsement here?
yes.
And it has to meet all current building codes and everything?
Yes.
And it's well, I can't say that word.
Perpetuity.
Perpetuity.
What I'm passing you out is the special exception standards and then the resolution. What happened was, whatever happened to my staff report prior to the meeting printed up disappeared. So this isn't a particularly complicated project, so rather than struggling to try to fix something, I printed out the special exception standards. So I can just quickly go through them with you guys on this project. But, as I said, with the septic system upgrade, formalization of the parking, getting an affordable unit here.
It's a good thing.
It's all a good thing. I think that, by any measure, the standards have been met. But on the special exception standards, if you go to page 3, no? Page 2. These are the key here, standards as it relates to the apartments in certain business districts. So, to point out, this meets the standards, and to your point, Tom, is, part of, what he was doing is getting the second floor ready to make it year-round and, not seasonal and everything else, because they have to have, meet those standards, building codes. So that's what he was doing. But yeah, it meets the standards. It's on the second floor. Now, it is a garage building with storage and some office space for the businesses, but it is on the second floor, which is the requirement. It's not really above a retail store or, an office use, but it does have offices and storage associated with the retail businesses there. So I think that standard is met. And then some of these standards, there's going to be a covenant that's going to be preserved for moderate income families, and that'll be one of the conditions that you'll see.
Will that be managed by the town housing authority?
Yep, 100%. So yeah, I think that, by and large, this is a pretty straightforward project. Part of the problem why this took so long, so the board knows, and Daphne knows this, is that it's for affordable housing, but the town doesn't have any sanitary flow credits in this area to provide, which means this guy's sort of stuck now going to the private market to get this. The health department, that's where it's been pushing on the health department. The health department is requiring that this unit also be affordable, by the way. That was the condition of them being able to bring the development rights. Yes. So they're waiting now on this board's resolution saying that this is going to be affordable before they allow the transfer of the development rights. So,
okay.
But it's good that they're doing it.
It's complicated, but it's getting another apartment.
We need the rentals.
Yeah.
However we get them.
Yep.
So if you go to the second page of the resolution, you'll see that I grayed that out again because I have to list the plans that were submitted. I just want to, we get so many revisions during the course of an application, I just want to make sure I have the right ones that I'm referencing. Changes to the site plan, compliance with the requirements of the engineer. So he's just asking for, he asked for additional soil disturbance area and erosion control, and so that's been incorporated. Provide the dumpster location along with enclosure detail and landscaping. And then again, the planning board is encouraging the applicant to incorporate sustainable and green design, including the charging stations. And then the general conditions of approval, no overnight storage of cars, trucks, boats. Signage is to be approved by the planning board. The screening of all HVAC and mechanical equipment. The installation or use of dusted arm fixtures is prohibited. No additional lighting without planning board approval, and all lighting shall be shielded downward. They need any approvals from the town highway department for any changes to the curb cut. Arrange for the pre-construction meeting with the town engineering division, and then to be completed prior to signature. Submission, approval, and filing and recording of an affordability covenant that will restrict the apartment to income-eligible house birds in accordance with the town's affordable housing program through the town's director of community development. So that's that point. And let's add the words in perpetuity.
Yes.
That's
a big deal.
That's a big deal. Along with the title certification, if applicable. I'm sorry, no, title certification, yes, mortgage consent if applicable. The affidavit indicating compliance with the conditions, and then submission of the 6 sets of plans.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah. Okay, motion to approve by Kate, second by Gloria, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Anthony, 9/11.
So that's the 7-Eleven project in Flanders at the traffic circle. They've asked for an adjournment or an extension of making the secret determination until March 27th. But just so I can say to the board, I'm going to send them a message after this that we've got to come to some type of conclusion on this.
Yes, exactly.
So let's just do it to the 27th and see what
Okay.
Have they ready to send something else, or are they just stalling so that we'll change our mind?
No, I just think that they're looking at other avenues and what the options are.
Okay. Motion?
Motion by Gloria and second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Extension to March 27. 13 is 94 Dune Road Holding Corp.
So we had a very nice discussion at the last meeting. This is for the Docker site. So the memo we went through last time in detail with John. And as promised, I edited it based on the discussion that we had in the applicant with the board, and I crossed things out and added in red. So I'll just quickly go through it, because at the end of this, just so the board knows, we're going to deem this inadequate for public review. They'll have to revise the EIS, and when we deem it adequate, then it goes out for public review, and it gets referred to all involved agencies. So the other side of it is we're going to get a lot more comments on this document at some point. So on page 2, the potential impacts, I noted about the soil boring data, that we needed some additional soil, and the applicant has indicated that they will provide that additional information. So that's good. The next one was about the groundwater data. I referenced that they made reference to the 2016 test hole data, but they in fact do have updated information in there for 2022, so that was okay. The wetlands delineation. So if you recall, there was a wetlands line that was done, I believe, in 2018 or something. It was verified by Marty's office. The wetlands line was updated in 2022 with no real significant changes. That wasn't, verified by Marty, but it's consistent with the original line. So what we agreed to is that we could get it verified, and we could do it for the final DEIS, because Marty's going to get this and will tell me if it's wrong or not. So that was okay. On page 3 there, and on to page 4, I had indicated some of the coastal policies. I didn't think I agreed with the comments. And then they indicated that there would be some social and economic impacts if the property became flooded, but they didn't elaborate on what those impacts would be. But as you can see in the red, the applicant has indicated they will expand the analysis as it pertains to the policies, and will address the social and economic impacts. So they said they would do that. So that's going to be revised. The potential impacts on zoning. If you recall, I had mentioned about a comparison and analysis of what's being proposed versus what can be accomplished under current zoning. And I think John Bennett effectively was saying, well, you're talking about two lots in an R80 zoning district. A more appropriate analysis would be, and I say here, the applicant has indicated they will provide a more detailed analysis of the impacts of the proposed non-conforming development versus the existing non-conforming development. Because that's where all the existing environmental conditions come into play.
And what's our position on the existing non-conforming? Is there anything that the town or this board can do about something that has existed and is non-conforming?
During a review process, yes, there's limitations on how much it could be expanded, and that's subject to zoning board review. If they were going to do any expansions or any changes to the site, it would still be subject to planning board review. But you're not going to tell them they can't have their restaurant there.
And they can continue in a non-conforming way as long as they don't change anything.
Yeah.
And there's nothing the town can do.
No, unless the town decides to amortize as they're talking about sand mines.
You got it.
Yeah, so this also, I just want to make sure we capture this. There is no analysis of what the underlying zoning would accommodate. They just analyzed the nitrogen output of the project, which is not really how our standard practice. So the 25 units that were proposed were, they just said, oh, we're better off because it's less nitrogen output. But the intent of that legislation to update the septic systems was not to increase density. It was to reduce nitrogen and maintain the underlying density. So I think that we need to capture that in here because while the argument was creative, it was not a reasonable argument.
Yeah.
Yes, I do recall that discussion. So I will add that that the analysis should not be limited to just what the nitrogen loading impacts would be, but should capture the density.
Right, so if they want to go to non-conforming and put condos there, it's not, the bar of measurement isn't the nitrogen output, it's the density that's allowable for the site.
Yeah, it is everything. We're looking at all the impacts. So yes, it's not limited to the one. So I will definitely add that.
Right.
So Anthony, you've crossed
and then
out
we
a
can
lot.
consider all the other things.
Well, that's because that was just based on the first one was about, the underlying zoning, and someone to add what she was talking about, the increase in density. The second one was about the 11,000 square foot density standard that they use. I only mentioned it because they said that that's the standard that they used. I didn't really understand what was the zoning basis for it, but it doesn't really make a difference. There is no zoning basis for it. They just came up with, based on what they would allow in an NF, a multifamily situation.
Right.
So that's the reason why we did that.
Okay.
Scenic resources.
Next page, page
Next
5.
page, if you go to 5, the applicant has indicated they will revise the DEIS to address our visual impacts. Both, they got to indicate that the impacts are real and significant, and B, they got to put it in the context of the north side of Dune Road. I know around Dune is on the other side, but we're talking about the north side of Dune Road. So
I just drove down there the other day. I mean,
it's a vista.
Significant.
It's a vista out there for sure. Affordable housing, again, the applicant has indicated that to comply with the standard, they would pay a fee in lieu of. But I mentioned that the standard for complying with the affordable housing is at the discretion of the planning board. So the DEIS outline what all the options are. The applicant's preference notwithstanding, we understand, but they should outline what all the.
Can we ask them to build it somewhere else?
Yeah, and that's one of the options they should identify. Yep. Southampton 400 sustainability element, I had indicated to the applicant, that they show compliance with the number of standards from the 400 plus sustainability element of the town's comp plan, but they didn't address the climate action plan. They had indicated they were in the middle of doing the DEIS, and the applicant indicated they will address the climate action plan in the final DEIS. I don't have a problem with that.
Is there anything in the master plan that calls for the preservation of that strip, the reversion?
Nothing specifically.
I mean, it is a barrier island, so there must be something in the climate mitigation plan about defending against sea level
100%.
rise, et cetera.
Retreats and those issues were addressed in the DEIS, because we said in the scoping document you have to look at certain alternatives, which they did do, and you got to look at 100%.
Is CPF conversation something we could note or has been noted in the DEIS?
With acquiring the site?
Yeah, they've acquired other properties along Dune Road there.
Let me look. I don't remember. It's a big document, if that specifically. I could tell you, I do recall them indicating in the DEIS what they believe the value of the property was. So I believe there was some discussion about
There's
preservation.
probably not a number that CPF would be comfortable.
Right.
There was 18.5 million.
Right, that's what I heard.
Worth the conversation.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah,
It has to be documented.
The next one on the bottom of page 5 and the top of page 6 was about the slosh zone. So the issue for me in the DEIS was it's hard to follow in a way because they indicate different scenarios under different, different impacts under different scenarios. So, they have scenarios when if there's an 18-inch increase in sea level rise versus 24, versus no change in sea level, but versus a category 3 storm. So I've asked them to clarify so it's easier to understand what the impacts are. The transportation, we had a discussion about this, again, about the evacuation routes, which is a discussion. There doesn't seem to be a lot of information as it pertains to traffic flow and bridge capacity and everything else. They gave a detailed traffic analysis, so we know about what traffic impacts would be, what the numbers look like. At this stage of the game, if they're saying there's not a lot of information, how we could figure out if there's going to be a bottleneck on a bridge or something, I could capitulate to that.
Or when that road is completely flooded and impassable.
Practically speaking, if you didn't get out before the storm, then God help you.
That's right.
Okay.
Bottom of page 6, again, visual and aesthetic resources. If you go, the applicant is making those changes, just so you know.
Okay.
Again, the evacuation routes in the STP. We're eliminating that with the STP. They gave a whole detailed design analysis. I guess what I had mentioned was what happens if the whole property gets inundated with water.
Flooded.
But the reality is if the property gets inundated with water, the entire sewage treatment plant will be underwater then.
Mhm.
And so, I think it's suffice to say that we know then that would potentially leach into whatever body of water. So they did give the design, with the amount of fill and the elevations of different equipment. So I think we're okay with that. And then the other changes was I had mentioned the alternative. Do not realistically evaluate the potential use or removal of the dock facilities, but the applicant has indicated that the dock facilities have been revamped with trustee approvals and conservation board approvals, and they're being maintained as part of this project. So I guess.
Can we get a date on those from them? When they were?
Oh yeah, no, the DEIS has all the permits in the DEIS.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the reduction in density, they came up with an alternative with 20. I said, what about something else? And they pointed out that our scope didn't tell them how many to, so they just went with 20. I think we could accept that as the reduced density plan, and we'll evaluate it based on that. So they've got some changes to do. I'm going to fix, and add what you said, Kate, because we did have this discussion. I remember that now. And I'm recommending that we deem the DEIS for 94 June Road Holding Corp. inadequate for public review.
Okay.
And then what happens next?
Motion by, can I take a vote? Motion by Kate, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Is there anything off this agenda?
Maybe I didn't.
Anything that can be moved to next week?
I've only got a few more. One of them's Ashley Caprero.
Okay, Anthony, Ashley Caprero.
This was Willow, the corner of Willow, and let me see what's under there.
No.
All right, good afternoon. Martha Reichert for the applicant. I'm joined by Kelly Kalbacher from Mayor Group.
Hang on for a second. Thank you. I'll start it.
Look to start.
No, I just looked at you. George.
So we previously deemed this application incomplete. I was waiting for the engineer review. It just so on the engineer review, it was weird. I got the checklist from Tom because our engineer does his own checklist for completeness. The checklist has everything checked off that largely all the information was submitted, But then there's a little note at the bottom that says, in recommending that they deem the application incomplete in order to verify if the dry wells are entering into, if the leaders and gutters in the building are emptying into dry wells. I'm not going to recommend that we deem the application incomplete on that, because if they're not, they will when the site plan is done.
Right.
But in any case, we had to deal with the traffic review, and I've read the traffic study, and I think Tom had a few comments. And then we were just going to go through the secret, because the first part of this is to do secret and then deem it complete, now that I have Tom's comments. But I know that Tom Neely had a couple of, I think, questions or something regarding the traffic study, so I'd like to hear what Tom has to say.
Okay. Well, I was pleasantly surprised to see the lack of right angle crashes on that whole series of roads along that corridor.
Yeah, the data was favorable.
Yeah, it was a good to see. And I think that we had spoken at one point about the possibility, and it would have to be a conversation, with your traffic engineer about whether the town, the planning board should consider recommending to the town board some kind of left turn restrictions on Willow or one way. We talked about the possibility of one way on Willow so that people weren't going up there and making a left.
Mm-hmm.
I think, we can maybe certainly hold off on that for today,
Mhm.
but that's something
Because
to
we
be
have an application for a
considered.
medical office building on the other side of the street.
Right, and in fact, this report incorporates the numbers for the medical using
Oh, good.
ITE records. It
And the
incorporates
driveways
the
lining up,
traffic volume.
right?
Well, and then right.
We haven't
after
seen that yet.
You have the application that we just saw for the Watermill building supply, right?
Yep.
There's
Right.
one up from that.
Which is a little farther down. So, I won't get too far into it. I think we're going to probably be following up. But, those numbers, like I said, were pleasantly low as far as crashes. Where was I?
But that's was a restaurant?
No, it was an antique store.
Okay, so
it's retail to retail.
Right.
But the antique store is not, is I would think probably the low use.
Right, and I think you will have to, and this does, take into account that there's going to be relatively high increase in the number of people using Willow, obviously, between the medical building and this application. But actually, the analysis looked at Deerfield, looked at Willow, looked at, what else was along the corridor there? Noadona, looked at a whole series of them. So my comment was with regard to all of those cumulatively, we're not.
Because you really
We're
could
not-
get to the light in that little shopping center.
I don't think there's an actual complete through. I mean, it's,
From Noah you can.
okay. I'll trust you.
I've done it.
There's a dirt, I think there's a dirt
Or
access.
you can go actually through the.
Noadona, yes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but over to Deerfield, there's no access over to
Yeah, you're right.
this.
Yes,
But
there is
anyway.
a dirt road, but
So I will kind of leave I did have a couple of comments, but I don't think they're that critical right now for us to worry about. So I don't know where we're going with
the other
this.
side of it is, as we go through the site plan process, we do our referrals.
Right.
We could deal with no left turns up the property and that kind of stuff. The question at this stage of the game is, impacts on the environment, whether it be significant impacts. One of the things the board asked to look at, and we did look at it a little bit, was, is there a possibility to lining up the driveways, on Willow here?
Right.
Makes it, it's not as easy as, I did meet with, the applicant. Which we want to keep, this as far away from the intersection as possible. So it seems to me with the building located right where it is, we don't have a ton of options, beyond this point, to move it up here. If anything, I think it would have to be this site plan that's going to have to sort of push it to the back in order to attempt to line it up. But I don't see it on this site plan moving this
Do we have the site plan up there?
At this stage where we're trying to keep the parking back here, and not get too close to the building. That's something though that we could still look at, as we go through the two site plan process. I don't think at the end of the day, it will make it, a huge impact in terms of traffic impacts. I mean, the traffic numbers are what they are. I think a better design is always to line things up where you can. The other side of it is, if we were talking about Montauk Highway, it'd be a much different scenario, than Willow, let's say.
Can we talk about the parking?
Yeah.
I mean, the parking is all on the west side of the property. They're taking down that little shed.
They had taken down the shed.
And you're putting all the parking on the side. There's no potential to put some of that parking in the rear?
Yeah, we can, absolutely.
Again, we face a situation where we're trying to do that along the
That's
corridor.
one of the things you're gonna have to look at, Martha, is that they don't like the parking along the roads.
Either in the front or,
behind the building is basically what we understand that there are sometimes existing conditions, but
I mean,
behind.
that is the main entrance to the building, right? Which is why we also have our handicap spaces there, because that's where our ramp is. And the idea when the Rayner Group put this layout together was the idea of preserving yards, right? In terms of adjacent properties, and there's a lot of existing greenery. So are you talking about that you want to see less?
well, if you're not going to move the driveway and the driveway stays where it's at.
I don't know, I would take these spaces, you have the handicap over here, and try to relocate them back here somewhere.
I would also just say that the parking was generally in where the parking is now on the west side. Like that's where it exists now.
Here is brand new.
Right.
Yeah, you've got all of the options there to.
So are you saying you want to see it closer to the?
We'd like to see the parking located behind the buildings. These spaces here are sitting in basically in the front yard. To me, you have some room back here where you can play with the parking and get the parking out.
And you have an opportunity to put some vegetation there.
Yeah.
Where you have parking spaces.
Okay.
So take a look at it.
Sure.
Anthony, are we here for this now?
Yeah, it's
okay,
for
let's.
let's get there. Impacts on land, I should say yes, by the way, because there's always small impacts on land, so I'm going to change that to yes. Obviously, we're adding. Geological features, no impacts on that. Surface waters, no surface waters or wetlands. Groundwater, no.
Flooding, no.
We're not in density or anything like that. Impact on flooding, I don't believe this area floods. I think this property is good, and we're going to get, obviously, a review from the engineer with drainage. Impacts on air, not expected. Impacts on plants and animals, again, this property is cleared in a commercial area. Agricultural resources, again, it's an existing building and an existing commercial site, so no impacts there. On aesthetic resources, no, they're maintaining the historic nature of the building, so that's good. Impact on historic and archaeological resources, again, no, they're going to maintain the building without changing the historic features, so that's they're just changing the use of it. Impacts on open space and recreation, no, the site's not used for that. Impacts on critical environmental areas, no, it's not in a critical environmental area. Impacts on transportation, yes, and what I think I have seen now that we've been getting more of these facilities on Long Island in general, is there's an initial impact. I think the curiosity, people go there, and then I think it peters off a little bit as far as, so, but there will be an impact, so we always say yes on that. Impacts on energy, not expected for this use. Impacts on noise, odor, and light, not expected. Impact on human health. That depends on your opinion. We're going to say no here, no. But I know where you're going, Gloria. Consistency with community plans. Again, it means, we have special exception standards for this use. And consistency with community character. Again, it's an existing building in the highway business for which the use is permitted by special exception. So I think overall I would recommend a negative declaration for this project.
Okay. That's our action today.
And the second one will come up in 2 seconds, which is going to be the deemed complete and schedule the hearing.
I would just say, Anthony, just if you're going to put a check yes, then put some other kind of comment in the other to substantiate it.
100%.
You know, as just to have the record.
I'll do that.
Thanks.
Okay, so we want a neg deck vote, motion by George.
Second.
Second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
And then I would recommend deeming the application complete and scheduling the hearing for March 27th.
March 27th, okay. Motion to deem it complete, you want one, motion to deem it complete and set the public hearing for March 27 by Kate, second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
I spoke with Seth via text, and he said Verizon Wireless is off.
Off, number 15 is off.
You changed your sweatshirt to your top.
Okay, on the best.
On the best. Sorry, let me.
Here, I can do it.
Here we go. Here we go.
I was just thinking we should take the applicants first.
No, well, this is a carryover, so.
Okay.
Here.
We got it.
Good.
So quickly read this. Claire,
Thank
you want to read it?
I can read it. Sure. Seth wrote it, so don't blame me.
I'm still here.
Okay. All right, Seth, you can read it.
Can I read it?
No, I'm just teasing.
Do the whereas.
Start at the beginning or go right to
No,
what
go
your
to the
recommendations
whereas.
are?
Yeah.
Okay, so to further develop a basis for the proposed 300-foot setback distance to single-family residences, residential districts, or occupied community buildings to maximize the safety of the community. Number 2, further explore the impact a 500-foot buffer to designated coastal evacuation routes will have in determining available sites for the development of BESS. Number 3, further define the opportunity sites listing of, quote, municipally owned properties, end quote. For example, does this include village-owned properties within the town of Southampton? Number 4, include provisions that allow for co-development to parallel the technological innovation. Number 5, consider provisions that would incentivize commercial developments to incorporate battery systems to further reduce fossil fuel emissions.
Oh, I didn't include that. We were going to include the support for the peer review.
Yes.
Yeah, so that'll be a
that's
new
6?
3. I'll put it under 3 since that's the order you did it. If that's okay. Support.
Supports the usage of a peer review throughout the.
Yeah, but that's a whole other thought, so you need
Yes,
to
a
make
new-
it 6.
Yeah, we can make it 6.
And on 2, I think you need to confirm what the coastal evacuation routes in the town are.
Yes.
To start
I
with
think
that.
those are 2 separate.
Yeah.
The 1 and 2 seem to be confused because I think, we were talking about consider a 500-foot setback to all of the items listed in 1, and then the 500-foot buffer was not related to coastal evacuation
Correct.
routes.
What was it?
It was just considering coastal evacuation
Gotta
routes
go
in
back.
the.
No,
you know,
there is something in the legislation
Was
about
it
the
500?
distance.
It's a 500 to
To-
coastal evacuation.
But you're saying
In number 1,
In number
instead
1,
of 300 feet,
500 is
consider a
Yeah.
500 foot
a
setback.
500.
And the issue with
Okay.
coastal evacuation is not the 500 feet, that's in the code already. It's about where the coastal evacuation routes are.
Yes.
Well, it's right.
It's a necessity to
Okay.
delineate and define the coastal
Yeah.
evacuation
right.
plan for the East End.
It's, yeah.
And it was,
So what, is that a separate one now?
I think we can fold that into 2.
2.
I believe further, I mean, we do want to explore the impact of the 500-foot buffer, but we need further, it needs
Define
to
and,
define a designated coastal
and
evacuation
designate.
route,
Yeah,
right, determine what they-
2025
which they are.
coastal evacuation route.
and 1 will be amended to add that the town board should consider other setback distances.
Well,
Yes.
500, right? That's what you're saying.
Right.
Well,
500 and
do we want to pick a
750.
number, or do
I
we
don't
want
think
to?
we do. Increase,
say-
just an increase.
Increase?
Yes, increase.
First, you have to determine where the 300 comes from, and then
Right.
if necessary, adjust it.
Exactly.
I think that's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really what we would say.
What's the basis?
So
Further
the
develop the
proposed?
basis, yes.
And then
and potentially look at greater distances.
increase distances.
Yes.
And examine increased distances.
Find out
Do you
why
want to say
Southold-
something about the
Why did
750?
Southold pick 750? And maybe there's a rationale behind it that we can.
You wanted to say why did Southold?
Is
Well,
there a rationale?
I would like to leave it back up to the committee or the town board to say, oh, it should be 400 or 750 or 5. They need to come up with a
Yeah, I
rationale.
don't think we need to point to Southold. I mean, that's so specific.
was- yeah,
It's
it's-
apples to oranges, really.
But I think by saying you're looking for the rationale for 300 suggests, should it be something else?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But 0.5, is that supposed to be what George was
I thought so.
explaining? 'Cause
That
I'm
was-
not
Does that make sense?
I'm not sure it does to me, but.
I think you just have to say it, you know, I mean, number 4 and 5 in particular are very, like, jargon heavy, right? Let's just say what we mean, right? Number 4 is consider other code modifications
Based on
that
technological
would
innovations.
allow for other
Based on-
projects to incorporate,
You don't
energy
even need all of
savings.
that. You just need based on technological innovations. If a technology innovation
Advances.
comes along, will they make a modification? Will they amend whatever the code is?
Well, okay, so separately, we talked about the decentralization of these efforts, which maybe is point 7 then. That in parallel with this effort, the town needs to be considering code modifications that would require or further incentivize energy storage on individual project properties, and that's what you had said.
I think that's what George meant.
Yeah. and
You
I-
don't think that says in the 5?
I
Well,
think
they
that's
don't have
supposed to
the
be
word
fine, but-
incentivize.
But I'm not sure it says that.
Oh, you do, you have,
It isn't.
that would incentivize
Further-
commercial
Okay,
developments to
I'm okay with
incorporate that.
5 is written
Yeah,
down.
Okay.
5 is-
Yeah.
5 is fine.
and 6 is supporting the peer review.
Okay.
Okay, are we clear on all of this?
Oh,
Crystal,
sure.
Crystal, Plasma.
Any questions? Or-
No, I think I have it. I'm going to read it back to you. So on number 1, it is what was the basis of the 300-foot setback and consider an increased setback to the single-family residences, residential districts, and occupied
Good.
community buildings. Okay.
Clear.
Number 2, we'll say further explore. Is there a 500-foot setback? You
Yes.
did read that. Okay.
Yes, it's in the code, yep.
And what are the designated coastal evacuation routes? Or where are
Define
they
and
located?
designate the 2025 coastal evacuation route. Define it and designate it. Where is it?
It should probably show up on the overlay maps.
That's, I wonder if GIS has
So
it.
that
I don't know.
How would I know?
It doesn't.
You have to
I
determine.
can't click on something that says, show me the coastal evacuation route.
That's
what I
what
meant is
Tom
if we
said.
identify the evacuation route, it should probably be shown on the overlay map for
Yes.
S.
Okay.
But because just in case the overlay map gets too close to a site.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to conflict with.
Okay.
I think those signs were put
Identify.
up right
Okay.
after
So 3
Hurricane
and 4
Sandy.
stay the same,
And then no longer.
Nobody ever,
and 5 stays the same, and 6 is support peer review,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Everybody got that?
Yep. That's what I got.
Everybody okay?
Number 6.
Okay, so a motion to approve this referral to the town board on BES. Oh, and do we have here that we will further review it?
Yeah, so the
Okay.
next, whereas the planning board requests to submit additional comments in the proposed legislation.
Okay, good.
And if you want to say, and we'll consider the same at the February 27th meeting, so they know you're not just asking
Yeah,
for an
okay.
open-ended?
Yeah.
Okay.
good, yeah.
Because they're going to incorporate the public comments as well from their yesterday's
Yes,
hearing.
we have more public comments and there's.
Okay,
It
so,
is-
so the agenda really for February 27th, we really need to go over it, because
Okay.
this is a scrunch.
Okay.
Okay, so a motion to
Yeah.
adopt this by George, second by Tom.
And
All in
it's put-
favor? 6 in favor? one absent.
Who's next?
Okay, 15 is off. Fairfield.
Wow. Yes.
All right, now we have a bunch of town board referrals. Let's hold them. Are they critical?
Mine is really quick.
Where are you?
I'm 15.
You're 16. It's a town board referral.
Yeah.
This is about the gate?
It's about, yes, Fairfield property owners
Yeah,
in the
they
planned
wanna-
residential district want to put in entry gates, and they also want to be able to lease out the market rate units only. The affordable units will remain affordable in perpetuity. However, they want to be able to lease the market rate units consistent with the town's rental code, chapter 270. So I
Is it-
did have a quick resolution.
Is this in their condominium plan? Are these condos?
They're condos.
Do they have to amend that
Yes, they will have to amend that.
and have it approved by New York State?
Correct.
But first they need our approval?
Correct, because the PDD prohibited them from renting out the market rate units, which is,
So what are they?
Any idea?
Currently owned?
they are all owned, and they're supposed to be owner occupied, all of them. However, consistent with everybody else who owns private market rate property in the town, they want to be able to rent it pursuant to a rental permit. So I do have a quick resolution for you, just in support of that.
And the gated entrance?
And the gated entrance was for privacy reasons. Obviously,
when they
there
first
has been
developed it?
past uses on
Yeah.
adjacent
Okay.
properties which have caused some concerns for their property.
And I think in the past, doesn't the fire marshal have to weigh in on?
Right, they have to have a certain setback from from the road for fire access, and we'll have to get a site plan for that.
Okay.
So what is this action?
So this is to recommend approval of the code amendments.
Maybe we have no objection.
Right,
Yeah.
right, having no
So we
objection.
have to have, it's a code, not a covenant, so we.
It's a code amendment because it is a PDD.
Of course.
Okay, any comments on this? Everybody, okay, so motion by Gloria, second by Kate, all in favor? Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Jackie,
Yeah,
I have an applicant here, number 29, 630 Millstone. Can we do that one?
what is that? What number?
It's actually very quick. It's just transferring.
Where is, what number is it?
29.
Yeah, let's jump to 29. Please look at if anything can be moved to the next planning board meeting.
I can't, I have to do the signing lines.
I'll get through my stuff very quickly.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So 630 Millstone, this is a property, I have it up here. It's in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District.
George?
It's allowed 20% clearing. And the applicant is requesting to transfer from a development rights certificate from Bridgehampton. This is in Bridgehampton, it's coming from Bridgehampton. And it doesn't have to be the school district anyway, because it's not a density issue. But they're transferring, they want this to go up to 25% on the property, which would allow an additional 8,547 square feet above, but they're allowed, which would bring the total of the clearing at this property would be permitted to 42,730 square feet. Normally, when we do the transfer, our policy is you could go up to the next range, but not beyond that. What we find is a lot of these properties, Millstone Road, Middle Line Highway, when they get building permits, and I understand they're putting the houses way back in the woods here. That's where they want the houses. These driveways take up a lot of that clearing, is what's happening. So in this particular case, it's development rights certificate number 0003.0. And it's coming from tax map number 900-54-1-3.2. And I'm recommending approval of the transfer of the development rights from that property. And then a new certificate will be issued because they're not using all the development right from that piece. And that will allow this property 25% clearing, and it's subject to a covenant. We didn't do this in the past, but we should be filing covenants when we change the clearing, because we have no way of really knowing.
Yeah. Yep.
that it's been done, so that would be my recommendation.
So is this in the same school district?
It is,
that-
but
yeah.
it's not relevant because it's
Okay.
no density.
Any questions? Okay, motion to approve. Motion. By Gloria, second by David, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, what can we get through here?
We've got some extensions.
Well, you know, I have this change, if you look at number 17 where we had these referrals,
Yes.
so if you look up here, the one that I have says the change in zoning classification. This is right where Sunrise and County Road 39 come together. You have the motel behind here,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the gas station,
Yep.
and then a commercial building here. It's R40 zone. The
Residential zone.
residential zone. The owner of this piece came in for a change of zone to the
Dance papers.
Dance
Mhm.
papers to the town board. And part of the reason is because there's a ZBA decision and previous constant changing from one non-conforming use to another.
Yeah,
And
just
it's
change
become
the
a problem
zone.
for these properties. So the town board, and I went to the town board with Janice, so I've been working on it. The town board said, let's look at the whole corner then, since they're all commercially
Mhm.
zoned. So what they're
They're
doing
not
is,
commercial, they're residential.
I mean, residential
Right.
zone, they want to be zoned commercial.
Commercial.
Highway
They
business.
have never been
It makes
residential
sense.
use, ever.
But now what about sizing
obvious
on
reasons.
highway business at 15,000 square feet?
Yes, but that also becomes a product of the size of the property, whether you could accommodate the parking for it and that kind of stuff. Just because a property can have 15,000 square foot building doesn't mean it can, because the thing, it's like a residential property, we allow 20,000 square feet, but most properties can't accommodate the 20,000. But what we could say is that the commercial zoning is more appropriate for these pieces, but that a concern would be
How they can be used.
how they could be
Because they're small.
used. But they would become, obviously subject to site plan approval from the planning board, so.
Did the County Road 39 corridor study talk about these at all?
Did not.
But that was the
This
first
is
question
the-
the town board
So
asked.
these
This
are up
includes
on
the
the
gas
hill,
station and the
right?
hotel? Yeah, the gas station, the hotel, and dance papers are all Yeah.
technically residentially zoned.
Right.
They have never been homes for obvious reasons, nor will they ever be homes. So it's just
Didn't
about
the town board
recognizing
vote
how
on
these
this the
lots
other
have
night?
been.
And there are
Or was
few
that to
other
have a public
houses
hearing?
Probably public hearing.
East
A
on
little
that.
further east.
Yeah, I have a friend.
Yes, right there.
So it makes sense,
Highway
it
house.
makes sense to rezone them commercial, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, then we'll
Yeah.
say that, and we'll say, but the planning board, registers its concerns that, commercial property could become overdeveloped on it, and
Okay,
I think that'd be okay.
You could also gain cross-access then possibly, right? And have everybody
funnel
in
out
and
through
out
that.
off of Hill
Through
Station
the site plan process.
and
Yeah.
improve that.
No, there's a difference in elevation between the hotel and the gas station. I live across the street on Hill Station.
Oh.
And
But
so I
from the
shouldn't
dance
vote on this,
papers,
but
you could close it off and then, get some
we-
connectivity and close that, because that's
Is there any way
really,
to get
that
another
dance
5 feet
papers
right of
property
way
is
out
a
of this?
problem with
There
the
is.
merge.
I think
Yeah,
the
there's-
last site plan on the dance lot, I think had a cross-access element to it.
Okay.
into the Bentley?
You're talking
Into
about
the
widening
Bentley.
Yeah,
the,
those, all other properties don't, they, were done so long ago.
you're talking about widening the right of way to cut.
Is there any way that the town or county could get another 5 feet right of way out of this
We could certainly make the recommendation that.
Wait,
the-
so which right of way?
on County Road 39? Get 5 feet of that.
Put an orphan piece.
One of the many issues counties had with that is the lack of right of way along 39.
Yeah.
And at one point, we were
So you
trying to
want
get,
the property owners to give you 5 more feet.
I'm throwing that number out there. I think there was actually discussion of more than that.
I think
with
that should be
Janice.
part of our referral.
Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable if you want to
Mhm.
include that.
So we'll
Okay.
also put it in our recommendation that,
Request
That's a road
additional right of way.
widening.
Janice and I had a conversation about that with the traffic committee. So I'd maybe go back to her. She had a number in mind that we were trying to get many years ago that we never were successful at. That, and not
maybe
this
the
particular.
commercial nature of these properties would warrant looking at widening the road.
We were talking about all applications, not just these three, but I talked to Janice
And that
about
to
that.
promote cross-access to funnel traffic on Hill Station.
100%.
So those three, anything more? That's it.
The only other thing I would say is a road widening would accommodate better drainage because there is some flooding in that area when it rains,
There's,
significant rain.
yeah, the issue is there's no more right of way. There
Right,
were
so I'm
other-
supporting what you're saying and
Right.
adding the drainage.
Yes, yes.
And the undeveloped property to the south is the state-owned extension of the Sunrise Highway.
Right.
So
Right.
that's all.
And that's, yeah, that's much deeper. There's a lot of.
But I'm just saying that'll never be developed.
Don't say never.
State-owned by-
No, it won't be developed.
What is it,
Could be used
state-owned
for road improvement.
For
It could.
27.
Okay, so we've got those
27 turn.
three, Anthony?
Yeah, so we'll resolve to send the referral comments to the town.
Okay.
Thank you. The town board hearing is not next week, but the week after, before your next hearing. So that's why we have.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Okay, let's have a motion on this. Motion by Tom, second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Let me just do my 2 extensions and I'll get ready for the meeting.
Where are your extensions?
27 and 28. Richard Avedon Foundation, it's just an extension for 90 days for submission of the final maps until May 13th, 2025.
Okay, motion till May what?
13.
Motion.
A motion by Kate, second by Gloria, and all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
And then 225 and 251 Butter Lane, that's also an extension for submission of the final maps for signature, and that's until April 8th, 2025.
April 8. Motion by Gloria, second by Kate, all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
I
Okay,
have another extension of 26, you know, just to get it out.
yeah.
Is there a second extension? Right?
Oh, for the.
Brenna.
Yeah, that's for 13A, 15 Summit Boulevard. What number was that?
26.
So number 26,
Number 24.
Good catch.
until
Yeah,
what?
Until
No, no.
May, I think it's May 19
May
this
9th.
year.
Okay, extension motion.
Motion.
Motion by Kate, second by David, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention,
Let the record
26.
reflect I was here, please.
Thank you.
Finance.
May, extension to May 19.
Number 26.
6, motion, but we did the motion, and second, and vote, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, so we've done 26, 27, 28, 29. Signed site plans, Gloria, and is acknowledging number 30, the Wave
I
Center.
signed Wave Center and I signed Milltown.
Okay, so acknowledging signatures on 30 and 31.
And 32, 157 is an extension,
Okay, number
90
32
days.
is a 90-day extension.
Motion.
Motion by Kate, second by David, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay,
We have
so,
one more.
I have a bunch here.
It's so
Yeah.
I promise. I think we stopped right after the
Yeah.
town board referrals.
Yeah.
okay, so we do have one more referral, and then we've got,
No, I just need the applicants behind it.
yeah, who are you?
After 21.
Crystal Chrysler Dodge?
Yeah, so that's to deem it complete and schedule a public hearing.
Okay, number 21.
This is the
Chrysler Dodge.
one immediately next to Right Rivian, so this would have a connection.
Okay,
So
Is it complete?
it is complete. It doesn't show the connection, so I'm going to have them prepare that plan for the public
okay.
hearing. Okay.
Deed complete and the extension?
Public hearing.
The
Public hearing.
Do we have room on the 13th, Carrie? Is that right? Yep.
March 13th.
Yep.
Okay, motion to deem it complete and schedule a public hearing
Motion.
by George, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Good.
What else can we quickly do here?
So you guys have yours on opinions up,
Yeah.
and I'll do the sand lines
Okay.
after that.
We'll leave the
I think
sand mines till
19
end.
was, 19 was where we left off, right?
Yep,
Okay.
Townsend of Noack.
Yeah, Townsend of Noyak. This is a pre-application for a 2-lot subdivision at 4490 Noyak Road in Noyak. I have the draft report here. The applicant's representative is not in attendance today, and there is no, this is a draft, and the deadline to adopt it will be at the next meeting. So if you want me to go through it, or I can distribute it.
Circulate.
Just distribute it, just
So
distribute it.
take it off. the
Yes.
agenda.
Yeah.
Distribution.
Oh, she's doing the walking.
Here, I'll take it, Brenna.
And you're left.
you.
That's all right.
And I think you have one more, Vanderbilt Park. What are you
Yeah,
Gloria,
mine's really
let me
quick.
call it,
You wanna
okay?
do those?
No, I'm just asking.
Like less than 5 minutes? Yeah, do yours. Okay. I'll be right back with it. All right, so the first one is Stillwater Tree Farm Pre-Submission Conference.
Number 22.
Here you go. It's incomplete. We need elevations of the proposed storage building, and there are some other outstanding issues for which they were cited for, which will also be addressed as part of the pre-submission conference. So that's just a resolution to deem it incomplete.
Okay, motion to deem Stillwater Tree Farm incomplete. Motion by George, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Next one is Alexander Breland. This is a little complicated. It's type 1 action. It's a 2-lot subdivision. It's type 1 because it's in the Ag Overlay District. We had a public hearing and we had deemed it complete because the health department had said that they would approve it subject to filing of easements, but they can't get me the maps because they're still working on the easements. So we're just, to stop the timeframes, putting it as an incomplete application.
So number 23, Michelle Vreeland, deeming it incomplete. Motion by Kate, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor.
And then the next one is
Absent.
Charos LLC. This was a pre-submission conference that we did last October in 2023. It expired, the pre-submission conference report. They are still looking to proceed with the site plan, but nothing that's really changed at the site. They had cross-access at the site. And just for your reference, this is the old diner near Pier 1, so there is cross-access there. It was for medical buildings on the southerly half of the property. So it's just an extension of the pre-submission conference report so that they can file their site plan.
10, 12.
The old diner near Pier 1 and
Yes, where the diner used to be there, next to Pier 1.
Motion to extend submission report.
Motion by George, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Brenner, you're the old file map.
Yeah, the Vanderbilt,
Number 25.
Vanderbilt Park.
And it's still there.
Southampton.
it got it's the owners at 25 Columbia Avenue in West Compton are requesting abandoning a portion of Glenwood Street. Their immediate half or 20-foot wide portion. And Peter, I think
Hi, good
this is the
afternoon,
lot here,
everybody.
the one outlined in red, and Glenwood Street is as this ends in Paper Road.
Do we have someone on Zoom?
There's someone on Zoom,
Okay.
the attorney, Will Shapiro. Yeah, so there's, currently the owner's driveway is occupying that space. They're requesting the abandonment. There is a subdivision, a 3-lot subdivision that it backs up to. I don't believe it affects them. They also have covenants and restrictions in their subdivision that where they have to share an access point off of this cul-de-sac here, North Porter Road, and no other vehicle access anywhere else. I don't know if Will has anything else to add to that, or if there's any questions.
Is there someone on Zoom that we can see?
Yes, hi, this is Will Shapiro. I'm the attorney for the applicant. Good evening, good afternoon.
Can you increase your volume, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Yep.
Okay, hi. I don't have any comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions that any of the board members have.
Brenna, anything?
Yeah, that was it. That's all I had to add. I wanted to make sure I mentioned the subdivision in the back in case there was any concerns from the board. But
Can you zoom in on that,
it
roughly?
seems- yeah.
So there's still sufficient access to all the other parcels with the abandonment here?
Sufficient access.
Except is this piece, is that a proposed driveway access?
Their driveway currently occupies the space that they're requesting.
But it also seems to occupy
It
the
spills
piece
over,
that's
yeah.
the spillover onto the other portion of the property,
Yeah.
of the road. Is that, what's gonna happen with that?
I don't know, the original request came in, the letter, I believe that the request was for the full 40. I did confirm with, Christine that they cannot do that. They would each have to abandon their half and then do a land transfer if they ever wanted to take over the full width. But I don't know how that works.
Is that, so the driveway is constructed right now? So is that proposed?
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
that's how the driveway is currently exists. This is not a proposed improvement, the driveway. The plan tentatively is to see this application through and then approach the neighbor about possibly abandoning the northern 20 feet and then trying to potentially acquire from them, but we didn't want to put the cart before the horse in that regard.
But is there spillover onto somebody else's property here that has to be cleaned up before?
It's spillover, so this is the 40-foot entrance.
Yeah.
They're allowed to abandon this 20 feet.
Right.
And this remains a road right of way. But typically that could be abandoned and incorporated into other property to the north.
Right.
So, but right now, his driveway spills over across the entire, onto that,
So it's spill over onto the paper road, not
right, on the paper road.
property further north.
But if that person ever decides to abandon that 20 feet incorporated in their property, it will then be on their property.
Yeah.
I think
I mean, it would
we need to
It would seem
identify
that they
that.
have to be done at the same time. The neighbor has to abandon it at the same time.
I'm not sure how to approach that. Maybe we have to get.
Some legal advice.
So this is where their deed says they own half the road? Is that?
No, so do you have a survey that you're looking at that I submitted with my application from Scalise Land Surveying?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, do you see the version that has the northerly 40 feet and then there's a 20-foot dotted, there's a line horizontally?
Yes. Yeah, we have that.
So that entire 40-foot strip is not owned by us nor the neighbor. So below the lower dotted line, where the asphalt gate, you can see the word asphalt gate. That line is where our actual property currently ends. That's like our meets and bounds of our insured lot. The 40 feet on the north, we're trying to get the bottom 20 feet of it. I originally applied for the entire 40 feet, but I was advised that we are only entitled to the southerly 20 feet. So to reiterate what I said before, like the goal is to get that entire 40 feet. But I think that, and without speaking out of turn, I think that the neighbor to the north would have to apply or somehow assign their rights to apply to that northerly 20 feet. And then we would have to do some type of lot line modification or something. But like I said, I wanted to pursue what we were entitled to before even going there, which was the southerly 20 feet of that area, as I was told.
Is there a deadline on this?
There is no deadline. I don't know, would you want to do them both at the same time?
I think you should pull up the old file map.
To reach out to the neighbor because he's already got an encroachment.
Right.
So you
Well,
want this
encroachment
person
right
in
now-
here first.
The encroachment right now is on a right of way, so it has nothing to do with.
I mean, we've got a driveway on a
Well,
paper
nonetheless,
road.
though, it's
I don't know how
at
he
best
got,
case on a road.
I don't know how he
It's an
got
encroachment,
a
no
building
matter what way
permit
we cut
So-
it.
to put his
Can I-
driveway on a paper road.
Can I suggest that you have a discussion with Dave Wilcox on the background to how this
Yes.
was written up? And what the implications
Right.
of this are before we may have any action?
If the town opened this old file map, then we have to verify whether or not this portion is part of that old file map, and if so, this person, the applicant, does he own half, you can only, the code says only half, you can only abandon half of the road.
Yeah, it's anyway.
You want both of those neighbors coming in at the same time.
Yeah, so first you have to look at the old file map, and that's excellent advice. Ask David about it. So sorry, we might have to bring you back, but we need to do some more research on this.
Okay.
So there's no action on this.
You could
No.
put this gentleman in touch with Dave. How would you do that?
Yeah, I can send
Well,
him his contact information.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Prenda, no action on this. Claire, we're
Ready?
left for you.
Sand mines.
We could strip it both.
No, wait, 20? Did we do 20? Oh, that's Seth?
Private road.
Right, number 20.
He said 19, Town of Noyak Road. We just distributed that. And then 20, Marty and Judy Shepherd, covenant amendment.
He said it was off. There's no deadline with that.
Okay, that's off. So we're left with number 18, the amortization of the non-conforming sand mines.
Yes, so you've gotten it before, but I have a copy for you guys.
Thank you.
I had to have a lesson from Janice on what this is all about.
You can share that with us.
Yes. So this is a code looking to amortize the non-conforming sand mines that are located in the town of Southampton. So there are 8 of them.
In residential districts.
Yes. Yes, I don't think there's any in any other district other than that. And
I thought it was limited to sand mines in residential districts. Not. I don't think it's sand mines in total.
Page 3, second paragraph from the bottom mentions residential zoning districts.
right.
There was a comments that if it's because of aquifer protection, why wouldn't you amortize them everywhere, not just in
Right.
residential?
Okay.
Yeah, go to, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They're special groundwater protection areas, so it jeopardizes the town's drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us a little bit more about this, and we can.
So right now, the way it's written, there's been a lot of public comments.
Yeah.
Is it's about whether these sand mines to amortize, realizing that people have invested, in purchasing the property, starting the operation, gotten the approvals from the DEC, and the town is finding now that they wish to amortize these because they're becoming nuisances, right? In certain areas, and certain ones have had numerous complaints against them. So the way they've written it is that the ZBA is the decider. They would receive these applications where the person comes to say, they can either say, you get notice that you shall close, right, in a certain time period, or you can go to the ZBA and the ZBA will grant you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years
Is there a formula?
left. Yes, based upon the fact of how close are you to finishing the operation. So if you're almost done, it makes sense just to give you another year and you can complete the what you can get out of it, and then have a reclamation plan, right?
So has there been any discussion about how long the sand mines have been in operation and how much they've extracted and what was the value of that? Because it's not like they haven't had value return over all these years.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of what Claire was saying about there's a formula based on how much.
Yeah.
In other words, we want to get rid of this nuisance, but we also don't want to just shut it down arbitrarily. So depending upon how much sand you still have left,
Mm-hmm.
you can keep going. And I haven't read this today, but I've watched a bunch of board hearings.
Okay.
So the longer you've had the sand mine, the shorter the time probably is for you to keep doing it, using it, because you don't have that much sand left.
Right.
Mike's?
I think they tried to bend over backwards to make sure that the owners are not feeling like they're just being thrown aside. So they're being careful about the investment, as you described, and the longer they have it, the more they have extracted, the value is returned. But every one of them is allowed an appeal mechanism. No matter how long they have it, everyone can appeal and get some relief right, as you describe it.
Mhm.
So it seems to me they've really put that all in place so that they are not seen as an arbitrary governmental figure that's just slamming the door shut.
And they gave some of that on item 5 of page 6, right? Which is the
Right.
presumptive termination period based on percentage of completion of standard.
The amount of time.
And then it's be up to the applicant to go to the ZBA to make a case for some extra time beyond what's
Yeah.
presented.
That's the real issue, whether the ZBA will allow beyond the formula.
Right.
But is there any mine that's been recently permitted? Because most of these have to be older, right? They all have to be approaching the end.
But what's happening is
Okay.
they're going to the DEC to expand
Oh, their allowance.
what they're allowed to
Extraction
do,
allowance, yeah.
whether in this way or this way.
Yeah.
Gone quite deep into the ground, into the aquifer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are some sand mines well, I think we've got them in West Hampton, where they're actually in the aquifer.
Oh,
And,
I didn't realize it would.
and I don't think anything in here addresses the sand mines that are actually doing mulching.
It doesn't, because mulching is another non-conforming use.
But that's part of the problem, is that they are mulching when they've run out of sand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, and that's where there's been controversy about what it's doing to the aquifer.
So based on that, who is the verifier? Who verifies if I have a sand mine and I come to you and I say, oh, I think I have 15 years left? Who verifies that?
Yeah, right now, the only entity that's doing verification is this.
Is the applicant.
Is DEC.
DEC.
DEC is
Yeah.
issuing permits for, you might own, that much and you've been mining this. They say, oh, no, I want to now mine this, and they apply to the DEC and they get a modification.
And there's been a lot of concern that the DEC is not doing an appropriate job.
Environment,
Right.
exactly.
New York State lets DEC control sand mines, except on Long Island, where there's local zoning control.
So, okay. So local zoning trumps DEC?
Yes, and that's been between the town and
And
DEC,
DEC.
there have been lawsuits up the wazoo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So the residential zoning component of this, is that related to complaints of nuisance noise and things like that? Is that because most of the issue here outlines a significant environmental hazard,
Yes.
but then it's limiting it to the qualifier of residential zoning district and special groundwater protection area. So, that's what you were saying before, it should be anywhere. If we're concerned about a critical resource, why are we
Should be
amortizing
townwide.
this,
Why are we limiting it only to
Yeah, residential.
residential?
Should be anywhere,
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
because groundwater's everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in general, we
In all
support the
zoning districts.
amortization of the
I
sand mines?
personally support amortization of all non-conforming uses.
Yes, I
I
think
mean,
that
I
that's
feel
important to
personally very
say.
strongly about that. When we allow non-conforming to increase, it just continues to continue
Perpetuate.
problems.
Yeah.
Nonsense properties. So that should be the first thing. The planning board supports.
Say it.
Amortization of all non-conforming
Say
uses.
swift amortization of all
Yeah,
harmful
right.
non-conforming uses.
So there's
This is
nothing-
significantly harmful.
And so what happens is that some of the
use.
amortization charts prolong the use so that the environmental degradation is continued
yeah.
and exacerbated.
Right.
Especially if they can keep going to DEC and getting more and more permits.
Exactly.
Can we say anything in here that says we advocate for?
Well, there is local, should
stop
be,
it.
Our local law should overcome the DEC.
Right.
okay, so we should say that.
But
Yeah.
there have been applicants that have gone to the DEC and then they refuse to shut down and there's been litigation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, a good support statement in there, I would think.
well, let's make that.
So I like the first one. So planning board supports the swift amortization of all harmful non-conforming uses.
And I mean, referencing the what was it, 2019, there was like an additional amendment to the rights of the people in New York State to clean environment, clean water,
Right.
air, et cetera. So that's a new finding. Maybe that
Yes,
clears
in
up
New York
some of
State.
these lawsuits. If that's between the DEC and the town, then, the town could easily say, well,
It's between.
you can't extend these.
It's
You're
between
on
the town
Constitution.
and the applicant, not the DEC.
Do we
I see.
support the amortization of the swift amortization of all harmful nonconforming uses, or do we support the amortization of all nonconforming uses? Do they have to be
All
swift and
nonconforming.
harmful? I mean,
No, just.
Well, the
I-
swiftness is
Related to
Speeding.
the causing harm,
Yeah.
then why are you gonna
Right.
give them another 5 years? That's
I
crazy.
mean, are we making a
we have
distinction whether
water
they're harmful or
resource
not?
at stake.
I think.
Yeah, we don't need the word.
Just say
harmful.
non-conforming,
Just
get
say
rid of non-conforming
non-conforming.
uses.
okay.
Yeah, because some are harmful, and some are nuisance.
But what language can we suggest that this amortization not go on in perpetuity?
Yeah.
Well, that's the point of amortization. There
Right.
should be after 7. I mean, with this legislation, this would be all gone in 8 years.
As long as DEC doesn't issue more permits, even though we can turn it down, but maybe we need a statement that says that we advocate for the complete immediate cessation of any DEC permits
Yeah, like,
for additional sand mines. Can we say that?
can't, I don't think we can do that.
Okay.
But we can reinforce the town's
could.
authority, Claire,
Recommendation.
that we can reinforce that the town's authority over sand mines be reinforced.
Yeah.
Well, and so is there a scenario where it would have to be a change of the legislation authorizing CPF, but if there was a way to have a pot of money where the activity could cease immediately in a case like this where groundwater is such a critical resource, the amortization would be the payout of that value
Yeah.
of dollar value to the business or the owner of the property, but they don't get to keep on doing the degrading activity and selling off the resource.
So sort of an equitable
How
I think we
town
should try
reacts
to,
to it.
I think we should
Maybe
try
that's a crazy
to focus on
I
No, but wait a
this
minute.
legislation.
The law.
I think they're looking
Yeah.
for our comments on this legislation.
Yeah.
I think we should.
Find a different way to
Well, but I
cease
understand
activity
that.
and repair
I
the
can
value.
value. Because this gives them to say, first of all, it says that, let's take it, if you less than 50% of what you have permitted right now, you have up to 7 years to continue your operation.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
That's a
Well, I'm
long
just saying,
time.
so, and then that still allows them to go to ZBA to get an extension of that time if they can make the case
right.
that ZBA will accept.
Right.
So Kate is saying, so why can't the town board look into
Buy them
using
out.
CPF funds to pay out the value of
The value of the mine.
Yeah.
I think it's a great
maybe
idea.
cease
Buy them out.
operations, and really that's what and I think that's a great idea.
It's a very
Yeah.
good
Okay.
idea.
Why do you
Just-
let them keep on doing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
If there's a mechanism.
Utilize
And
funding.
then,
Should we say CPF or should we just say use funding?
And the property then should revert to
Use
the town,
funding.
right?
Revert to the town.
Right, Kate? It's like we're buying out the property, so that becomes
Yeah.
town property.
Right, is there value
Yeah.
that's left in the property, right? Because that's the appraisal of the property isn't based on a density allotment, it's based on the value of the property
Of the
to
use.
that business, right?
Right.
Fine,
The
tell us
sand, the remaining
what you
Yeah,
have
sand.
now
left.
we run up into things like, so you take one in Southampton, which they're now proposing a, floating solar, on the
Right.
on the aquifer, essentially, right?
Mhm.
Is that so? The thing would, if your idea would be that the town actually purchase the property and extinguish the use, so then becomes
Extinguish the mining
Can-
use,
can-
but it is an opportunity site for solar.
Yeah.
For sustainable.
Yeah, but then the
for
town
solar,
could-
for energy storage.
Yeah, and if the
Can
town was
could
really
do it.
creative,
Yeah.
they would put together two businesses. Instead of, if they
So
can't
it's
use
something
CPS
like-
funds,
it's-
go to an
it's-
energy supplier and
it's a
match up a
recommendation
solar to
that,
buy out the property. But
Well,
I don't know if
the
they're
town
gonna be.
did use CPF money to buy a bunch of nightclubs before they shut them down.
Yes.
So
Yes,
that-
they
so-
did.
So
I think
we
the
do
sand
have, we
mines-
do
So
have a
let's
precedent.
think of the sand
all the
mine
good
as a
ones, right,
nightclub.
Gloria?
They were
Gloria?
identified as an
All the good
opportunity.
nightclubs.
Opportunity
Really? The
zone.
CPF, you bought the nightclubs?
Yeah.
Oh,
But,
good.
Well, it was
I
on the
mean,
dunes.
Yeah, good idea.
How about the one?
What'd you say, Tom?
the
Marina.
Yeah.
In the best legislation we
Yeah.
looked at, sand mines were identified as an opportunity
Opportunity.
zone. So they are thinking about
So we-
switching the use to that.
So we should emphasize that.
I like it.
That if sand mines are considered an opportunity zone, or have been designated an opportunity zone, then it goes hand in hand with the town buying up the remaining value
Right.
of the mine.
Right. So looking back at the, like,
Let her get this language
Sorry.
down.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead.
so just like to build that case out, you could look at, I can't remember the Neptunes and, you know, all down on Dune Road and Hampton Bays, right? Like the business said, look, I could have made this much money off of my property. You know, how was that deal put together?
I.e. nightclubs.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a critical resource. Like
I mean, the scale of
with doctors.
I believe the one that's been most contentious is 32
people of
acres.
Southampton Town against
I think,
In
I
Noyak.
think we're.
Is this the one, the
sand
parcel that West Hampton Beach owns?
No, this is one, I think, out in Noyak that's been the most contentious
Yeah,
from
Sandlands.
reading the papers. And,
Oh, the sand, sand.
right, and that's,
It's at the
I
end of-
believe, 32 acres.
Wow.
And I did watch the public hearings as you did, and the owner was talking about the millions of dollars invested in,
Yeah.
you know.
And
And there
they-
is a debate about
And
what
they
it
have,
means by harmful or polluting.
But Jackie raised a good point. He invested millions, but how much has he already profited?
Yes, they've
You know, he may
already,
have already more than matched his investment,
They've
which you don't want to say you
al-
can't have any profit.
Well, I'm
They've
just,
al-
I'm
they've
talking about
already-
the assessed value of those properties.
they've already monetized a
Yeah.
resource.
well,
Yeah.
that's.
And they've had years of
Well,
monetizing a
that's
resource.
what this amortization is supposed to do. It's like, okay, you're almost done. We'll give you enough time to just, I mean, in theory, I think it makes sense, but I like the idea of.
I think the idea
When
of
just
shutting
buying
it
them out,
down.
and then, yeah.
Let the town buy out the
I don't trust
remaining
that they-
resource
Yep.
with whatever funding is
And they
available.
could use CPF water quality money,
Yeah,
because that's
Yes.
That's what
that's
it's
yes,
for.
can you put that in there, Claire,
That's
please?
what it's
Not
for.
just buy out the remaining operation, but buy the property and it becomes town property.
Well, and there could even, like, so here's a suggestion too. It doesn't have to just be a town initiative, because you have Suffolk County, the 0.25% money, and you have the state EPF water quality improvement funding, so they could kind of piece money together with multiple entities to buy up, because if it probably is a lot of money. So, anyway. Get creative. Figure it out. We need water. What are we doing?
Yeah. Suggest town board utilize town funding such as CPF or county or state funding to buy out property and remaining value. I.e. the nightclubs on New Road.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
we have a,
So the first one is to eliminate non-conforming uses, we believe that. And the second one is a mechanism.
Well, the second one is do it all
Yes.
zoning districts.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, second one is.
Due to the
should apply
concern
to all.
about,
if
to
it-
the
all
concern
sand
about the
mines.
impact on the
if,
groundwater.
yeah, if
Right.
if water is an
On
issue.
the, they're doing a definition.
All sand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if water is an issue, it should be everywhere.
And then the third is a mechanism, that we propose a mechanism.
Yep, I like that.
That's great,
So-
that's great.
But
Now-
I think the third point you might want to
Save the water.
that you know, this could allow for
I couldn't wait for this
cessation of all
conversation because I feel so strongly
in
about
the
it.
aquifer in a shorter period of time. You know, and,
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
problem child.
yeah.
These are good suggestions, but have we,
I think we
how do we
addressed it.
feel about this legislation?
It's inadequate. I mean, we can't say that in the
I
headline.
think we support the
We
legislation.
support, yeah.
Well, you support the
But these are
amortization.
these are the
Yes.
things
That's
that-
what you're saying.
Well, that's the
What
first
you're
thing we said, we support
support
amortization
the
everywhere.
idea.
Right.
This is good.
But
Looks
that we
reasonable.
Other
wanted,
suggestions.
we wanted
Whatever.
expanded, Tom,
Right,
to not include only residential.
Right.
We wanted to include all sand mines.
right.
And we
What was the third?
recommend that
Well,
they use
the
creative
CPF
money to
funding,
shut
right?
them,
An alternative
buy 'em out,
idea
shut 'em down.
Would be
Up
to,
yeah, mention opportunity sites.
Oh, yeah, the opportunity sites.
Okay.
Make it another point if you want.
I know it's in there
Sand
somewhere,
mines and
Claire, right?
the-
If they use CPF funding, can they use it as an opportunity site as well? for something like a
Solar?
solar.
No, that would be more
think
like
so.
you bought it for municipal purposes, right?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Right, because then it becomes like.
But if you want,
preserved.
you know, if you want the town to have multiple areas with solar.
So you
why
could
not?
convert these to solar, make them municipally owned properties.
Yeah, convert them to.
Yes, you
Yeah.
could. And I'm going to add your point about this using a mechanism such as this would allow for a quicker end to the non-conforming use.
Yeah.
The same ways. Okay.
Right.
And protection of their.
And protect, right.
I like it.
Okay, great.
I will write it up.
I think we did good work here.
We did great work
That was
all day,
great.
all day. So a motion to adopt this referral by George, second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you, Kate.
Motion to adjourn.
6 in favor, 1 absent. We are adjourned. And Dennis is covering tonight at 6 o'clock. He is en route.
Okay.
Are you leaving? Huh? Yes.
Take